Yo, what's going on, guys? There's this amazing website called gridstudios.cc. And essentially, at least for those gamers out there, they do like this fantastic display of the inside. They break apart either a Game Boy console, a PSP, or a controller, any device, whether it's a GameCube remote control, PlayStation 5 remote control, Xbox, and they disassemble the components and then they frame it for you. It's freaking dope, man. All right, it's called the gridstudios.cc. Check it out, man. I'll probably pull it up so you guys can see it. It's fantastic. Pretty expensive, but nevertheless, if you guys are setting up your, you know, game rooms, you got your Xbox here, flat screen TV here, and a bunch of video game cassettes. Boom. I recommend you guys checking out gridstudio.cc. They got some really cool stuff. Schlosker the Destroyer. What's going on, brother? Nah, I just started right now, man. If boxing can just be very simple, man. See, this sport is very complicated. It's muddled. It's boring at times, People think they're making big fights, but in reality, they're not, right? Boxers just need to just sit their ass down and just conquer one division. Everybody wants to have an advantage in terms of rehydration clauses, or they want to move up in weight and be a weight bully or whatever the case may be. But if they just focused on becoming undisputed, rather than trying to play the pound for pound game, move up to 160, 168, 175, and then come out in an interview. Hey, I'll go to cruiserweight at 200 pounds. Oh, that's not enough, guys. Might as well just go to heavyweight and challenge myself. Bro, relax. If you guys just stayed in one division, the sport of boxing would be much prettier and organized. Okay? That's all I got to say, right? Bud Crawford versus Canelo Alvarez is not a big fight. No one wants that fight. Don't try to pawn it on us. Don't push it into the agenda. Nobody cares about that fight. Okay? It's not even a good fight. The only person that wants that fight is Bud Crawford. That's the only people that want that fight, Bud Crawford. Black people don't want to see that fight. Mexicans really don't want to see that fight because you guys didn't give Canelo Alvarez when he destroyed Jermell Charlo. Jermell being bigger, also undisputed, right? Pretty much undefeated. Nobody cares about that fight. It is not a mega fight. It's as if Canelo were to tell you tomorrow, you know what, guys? No fight in the sport of boxing appeals to me like an Andy Ruiz or Anthony Joshua fight. You know what? I think I can beat Deontay Wilder. Those heavyweights wouldn't even entertain that bout. And those fights would be much bigger than a Bud Crawford fight. What I'm saying is, it's a bunch of malarkey.
I respect that's a bunch of malarkey.
And why is that so?
Because not.
And why is that?
With all due respect, that's a bunch of malarkey.
All right, it's a bunch of malarkey, man. I know you guys love Joe Biden. I know you guys do. Look, man, if boxing just focuses on making the fights happen in their respective weight class, the sport would be much better. For example, if we look at 126 pounds, I forget that division. I don't care too much about the division. But let's say at 130. Instead of Emmanuel Navarrete moving up to 135 and fighting for a vacated WBO belt, why don't you just sit your ass down, Navarrete, and just fight Joe Cordina or Oshaki Foster or Lamont Roach? I don't even know if you can beat those guys, right? Shakur Stevenson, instead of, acting like a broad and a female and retiring because things don't go your way or you don't understand how promoters would like to build up Navarrete and then you two can fight for a unification match. Instead of acting like a female and throwing a fit and going to Twitter, right, where nobody cares, why don't you just fight or wait to see if you can get the Lomachenko fight, rematch Edwin de los Santos, or just unify 135 instead of crying at 140? If these guys just stayed put, Devin Haney, don't call out Conor Ben. Unify with Subriel Matias. Wait for Teofimo Lopez to win or lose against Jermaine Ortiz. Then unify with him. Nobody wants to see you fight Conor Benn. Same thing with Tank Davis. You and Conor Benn is not a big fight. Okay? Because it's a meaningless fight. At 147, Bud Crawford. Fight Boots Ennis. Okay? Fight Boots Ennis. The same treatment that Canelo is giving you is the same treatment you're giving Boots. It's not a big fight. Why would you go backwards? Same shoe applies to you, bud. You are a meaningless fighter for the career of Canelo Alvarez. That's right. Because no one gives credit to Canelo for beating an undisputed Jermell Charlo. You know why? Because that fight is essentially 6 years too late, 8 years too late, maybe even 10 years too late. Okay. And you have to move 20, maybe 25 pounds to fight this man. It's ridiculous. All right. As many know, Teofimo Lopez is fighting tomorrow. He's one weight class removed from fighting Bud Crawford. And no one's giving Teofimo Lopez a chance against Bud Crawford. And that's only 7 pounds. Imagine asking Teofimo Lopez to move up all the way and fight Jermell Charlo, or if Gennady Golovkin was still competing. It's ridiculous, man. These headlines, they're absolutely ridiculous. Enjoy your moment. Enjoy your fight. Enjoy your reign at one of the dominant divisions, a popular division, bud, at 147, and beat Boots Ennis. Fight your mandatories. Every single champion, every single fighter, just stop playing the pound-for-pound game. Stay in your respective weight class and fight those guys. If Bud Crawford were to justify Boots Ennis, if Jermell were to fight Tim Tszyu, if Jermall Charlo were to fight Carlos Adames, Canelo David Benavidez, and Bivol versus Beterbiev at 175, the sport of boxing would be, again, one of the most popular sports if they just continue just to have structure. Okay. Everyone is looking for the biggest paycheck, right? But if you just do your job, the money will come, right? You don't need to move up 30 pounds, 40 pounds, 70 pounds to get the respect. Absolutely not. Okay. I seen it with Gennady Golovkin. He stayed at one weight class essentially his whole career at 160, and people gave him the utmost respect. All right. Everybody is like piggybacking off Manny Pacquiao for being an 8-time divisional champion, which is incredible. But Manny Pacquiao was never undisputed, right? Same thing with Floyd Mayweather. He was never undisputed. Okay. And it's amazing to be an 8-time, 6-time, 4-time, 3-time divisional champion. I'm not trying to diminish the impact or the importance of it. But naturally, as you age, you gain weight. So in reality, it's not that important. Because if I'm 17 and I turn pro, I'm probably at 126 pounds, maybe 118 pounds. And guess what? I can be a champion at that age, right? 3 years later, at 20 years old, I'm probably going to gain at least another 5 pounds. Maybe I'm fighting at 122. Add 5 more pounds at age 25, I'm probably at 130, 135. That's 3-4-time division champ right there. Naturally, you just gain weight. So it's not really that impressive, especially in the state of boxing that we're in now with a lot of these weight bullies, with a lot of rehydration clauses, right? It's not really that impressive because take, for example, Jermaine Ortiz, right? He weighed in. He looks extremely big for that weight class. He looks good at 140. But you know that dude's probably walking around 161 pounds. It's a tall kid. He's a big kid. Go look. Let me see if I can pull up him versus Lomachenko, man. Yeah, at least look 25 pounds bigger than Lomachenko, right? Let me see. What's his name? Jermaine Ortiz. He looks about 25 pounds bigger, and quote unquote, he still needs to try to outbox the shorter fighter. Man, that guy has amazing skills, don't he? Teofimo Lopez should be able to knock him out within 6 rounds. Because if we're going based on his latest performance against Antonio Moran, shout out to Mr. Moron, because he had a fight last Wednesday on Pro Box TV and he knocked out Romero Duno, the same guy that, Ryan Garcia knocked down in, I don't know, 1 round. The first left hook that he landed, dropped his ass. Anyway, man, Antonio Moran ended up knocking him out in 6 rounds. And he fought Jermaine Ortiz. And I guess Jermaine Ortiz had a lengthy layoff and back surgery. Maybe you can say that. But I don't really think the technician is that great of a skilled boxer. Look, man, to keep it simple, Bud Crawford versus Canelo Alvarez is not a big fight. Okay? Because if you want to say that it's a big fight, what about Canelo? If he were to wait and see who the winner of Tyson Fury versus Alexander Usyk, right? And let's say Fury is undisputed. You don't think Canelo would love to be a heavyweight champion? What if he said, you know what, guys? I would like to fight Tyson Fury for his undisputed. It's the same ridiculousness. This is ridiculous, man. Every single one of these fights that everyone is proposing is garbage. That's just what it is. It's just what it is. Let me hear this epic moment right here.
That's a bunch of malarkey.
And why is that so?
That's a bunch of malarkey.
And
Are less willing to
With all due respect, that's a bunch of malarkey.
Yeah. Oh my goodness, man. Yo, what's going on, Schlosker the Destroyer? No comments. The Destroyer, Oi from Detroit. El Pachuco goes at war speed. Saludos, cheers. Teofimo versus Bud is a good fight. The best of one division challenging the best at another. Happens all the time in boxing. It should be commended. I don't know if Teofimo Lopez is the best at that division at 140. Because, yes, he did beat Josh Taylor, right? But if we know anything about Josh Taylor, he's relatively big for 140. On top of being big for 140, he's coming off a lot of injuries. And he lost to Jack Catterall. So I can't say if Josh Taylor was the best at 140 still, right? On top of that, Teofimo Lopez once said that when they're talking about the fight versus Devin Haney and Regis Prograis, he goes, I expect Devin Haney to beat him because Regis, like Josh Taylor, had stayed in this weight class at 140 pretty much the whole career. So they're going to be a little rusty. They're not going to be at their best because they're, older, have a lot of wear and tear. And last but not least, they're trying to have a size advantage, but the cutting weight is weakening them. That's what basically Teofimo Lopez said in one of those interviews when Devin was going to fight Regis. He's basically saying he's diminishing his own victory over Josh Taylor because, hey, Josh Taylor is no longer the best at 140. He should have been a welterweight, 3 fights ago, right? So I can't say that it should be commended because no one gave Jermell Charlo that respect when he moved up to fight an undisputed Canelo Alvarez. No one gave him that respect. In fact, because of his performance, which honestly wasn't that bad, everyone called him a coward, right? He ended up getting stripped of all his belts, and everybody lost respect for Jermell Charlo. And if you go look at his career at 154, the man gave us a lot of great fights. So, for what it's worth, I don't think moving up in weight should be commended at all. I will commend you if you become undisputed. Because that lets me know, you know what, dude? You're the real deal. But having 1 belt or 2 belts, it's not enough no more. It's not enough. And I don't need you to be a 2-time, 7-time, 8 divisional champion. I just need you to become undisputed. Because more or less that means you beat the guy. Or you beat everybody that's left so you can remain the last one standing at the hilltop, right? That's all I got to say. El Pachuco goes, Canelo versus Benavidez does more pay-per-view sales than Bud versus Crawford. I agree. I agree because there's going to be a lot of people that are going to be disgusted with Bud Crawford and they will call him a sellout, even though a lot of people are under the assumption for some apparent reason that he would beat Canelo Alvarez. This isn't Canelo Alvarez at 154 when he fought Amir Khan, okay? When they're only 7 pounds removed. This is 30 pounds removed. 147 to 168, 21 pounds removed, right? Plus the rehydration clause. Like I said this before, man. You think Bud Crawford can beat Demetrius Andrade at 168? Do you think Bud Crawford could beat David Benavidez? Of course not. He went 12 rounds with his older brother who was shot in the leg. And Jose was like inactive for over a year, shot in the leg, very immobile. And he was doing pretty good against Bud Crawford. What do you think David Benavidez would do to Bud Crawford? Fucking rearrange his guts. He would make him look stupid. Bud would just run away. And honestly, I feel like that's a better fight than Canelo versus Bud Crawford, because at least now I would have a sample size or a system that could be like, well, this is what Bud did to David Benavidez. He might have a lot of success fighting versus Canelo, right? But in reality, man, did I close the tab? Damn, I closed the tab with Joe Biden. It's a bunch of malarkey, man. That's a bunch of malarkey. Let me see his speed and Drew are here. Nah, man, what do you think? No, honestly, bro, like, what would you guys think that David Benavidez does to Bud Crawford? Probably puts him in a coma, man. If we're being honest. Warp Speed Vince goes, salute to you, brother. He goes, I'm going to put Warp Speed on timeout. Yeah, man. Let's see it. Pachuco goes, I see some people saying that Canelo versus Bud is a good fight, but these are the same people criticize Canelo for fighting Jermell. Absolutely, man. It's ridiculous. Warp Speed goes, Vince, good evening, sir. It seems like this will be a live addressing malarkey. Certain fans of the sport only want to see miracles happen. They usually make miracles happen for themselves when they stream fights for free. They wouldn't pay to see Bud versus Canelo. And Pachuco goes, it depends. Becoming undisputed by beating Rolly doesn't mean much. I don't think that Bud beats Tim Tszyu at 154. Oh, man. I think Bud could beat Tim Tszyu, but it would be a really good fight. Like, it would, that's competitive bout. You see, what do you think Tim Tszyu looks like fighting Canelo Alvarez? Maybe he lasts 8 rounds. Maybe. Probably not. It just depends how sympathetic, Canelo wants to be. It's like, you know what? I just want to carry him like he did Amir Khan. Like, it's a joke. Right? It's a bunch of malarkey, man. Probably gonna say that like 1,000 times. Joe Biden should have I don't know, copyrighted it or something like that. That saying. Nah, man. That's pretty much all I gotta say. I don't really need to go on and ramble on about this topic, man. I think this is, this whole topic, this whole situation is really a joke. But I am very interested of the fights tomorrow. It's a really nice undercard. I think Mason Abdullah, he's fighting this guy from Texas, a Tejano. And Mason Abdullah, I spoke great things about him in the past. Him and Emiliano Vargas, whenever they do fight, because both are 19 years old, they are the future in their respective weight class. Mason Abdullah, or Abdullah Mason, probably will be the next Terrence Bud Crawford. He looks to have the same level of IQ, punch selection, outboxing ability, hand posturing and positioning, and he's very rangy. And he's already fighting really tough guys within his first 10 bouts. Right? I can't speak highly of that win over Angel Rebollar. In fact, that's just a 4-rounder. If they fought for maybe 8 or 10 rounds, we might have gotten a different result. Angel Rebollar beat one of my friends, Justin the Stallion Cardona, who's also a pro boxer out of this region. But yeah, man, I'm very interested in that fight. I think Abdullah Mason will run into a little bit of trouble. He should be able to KO this guy, but honestly, I was looking a little bit of his fight footage, and the Texans got some pretty good size on him, right? He usually fights like as high as 147. I think he weighed in at 136.7 pounds. So I think it's Mason Abdullah's going to run into a little bit of problems, and I think it'll go to a decision. There's another fighter, I think he's from Wisconsin. Both of them actually are. His name is Javier Martinez. He's like 6'1", southpaw. I seen him fight live in that Stockton undercard of Ruben Villa and Johnny Beck Alam Kanalai. That guy's a pretty good fighter. What was kind of crazy to see is he fought this dude from Sacramento. He was undefeated 7-0 with one draw. I thought Javier Martinez lost, but one of the things that was really I saw that was really interesting was after the fight, he had a little bit of swollen on his eyes, but his trainer had bought him a 40, right? Like a Mickey's liquor, and he was drinking beer. And I was like, damn, bro, like this guy just put in a ringer and you're giving him beer, probably to numb the pain or just kind of get him to like not feel as stressed out or whatever the case may be, because he probably thought that he underperformed. But I was like, man, get this guy a good ass meal and some Pedialytes and a Gatorade and water. Man, fuck the alcohol. You know what I'm saying? I was just like, damn, coach, you got to look after your fighter. El Pachuco goes, it depends. Becoming undisputed by beating Rolly doesn't mean much. I agree, but, he ain't going to hold on to that belt much longer. Teofimo slipped into, Tio is a very weird guy. I will say this. When the cameras are rolling, he's a very strange individual, and he revealed something about Rolly Romero. He was saying that he was coming off a back injury and a neck injury. So, given that situation, I'm going to take his word at face value. Even before that, little detail was revealed and exposed. I had Pitbull knocking Rolly out, right? Rolly would do his best impression of being an outboxer and jabbing to the outside. But Pitbull should be able to figure it out and knock him out. If Rolly decides to run and jab and hug like Giovanni Cabrera did against Pitbull, then we might get a really boring fight. But if Rolly finds his... Look, bro, I don't really like Rolly. I hope Pitbull knocks him out. I'm not going to try to vouch for that dude. That dude, I hate the fact that he's a champion. I hate the fact that people entertain him by putting a microphone, right? Like, this dude is a guy that should not have a voice in the sport of boxing, okay? He talked himself into a payday versus Tank Davis, and then he quit after the first punch that landed on him. What a joke, man. What a joke. The whole PBC stable for the majority of the time and their matchmakers and, whoever invests into PBC. Bro, you guys disgust me, man. It's crazy. Vince goes, yeah, you think highly of Mason because of the difficulty of his opponents. Yeah, man, he's a really good fighter. I mean, only time will tell, but I'm really excited. I can't wait for these guys to... when they do fight one another, it's going to be it's going to be a great fight. Emiliano Vargas is training, and he's taking, he's the best out of the three Fernando Vargas sons. And he looks to be, he's a professional, man, Emiliano Vargas. So I'm really excited to see him fight in the upcoming month of March. And I'm excited for Abdullah Mason, right? These guys have the future. And eventually, as time goes, as we always know, we were so excited with a young Teofimo, a young Shakur Stevenson, a young Devin Haney, a young Ryan Garcia, And then once they start having the momentum and people start following them, they flip the script on us. They start acting like divas. Shakur acts like a diva. Teofimo, he's got his mood swings. Ryan Garcia, oh my goodness. It's like manic depressive. And one time he's feeling extremely low. The other time he's at an all-time high. Then he goes on this tirade and just blasts everybody. And then self-snitches on himself. I mean, maybe we might get that out of Emiliano Vargas and Mason Abdullah when, they start to become either champions or they're unified or whatever the case may be. But yeah, before the sport of boxing perverts these young minds, like Vince goes, the success gets to their heads. Yeah, absolutely, man. It's a great way to put it. And when that happens, it's very unfortunate. You go from everybody's hero to the villain. Everybody loved Canelo Alvarez. They were like, man, look at this young guy with red hair and freckles, and he fights extremely tough. And then all of a sudden, everybody hates him. It's this weird situation. I mean, it's happening, I like to reference football a lot, but it happened to the Kansas City Chiefs. You know, everybody was like, man, yeah, Mahomes, we're going for him against the Patriots, you know, to go to the Super Bowl back in 2019. Everyone's going for Mahomes and the Chiefs. And then, I don't know, 6 years later, oh, man, F the Chiefs. This is not the Super Bowl that we wanted. It's insane. It's insane. 1 minute they love you, you know, the next stabbing you in the back. And Pachuco goes, I completely agree with Oscar De La Hoya. Ryan has people close to him giving him bad advice. Ryan has people close to him giving him bad advice. Ryan has bad people close to him giving him bad advice. Who are these close people? Would it be his father, Henry? Would it be his younger brother, Sean? Because he's already on his second divorce, so I'm pretty sure, you know, co-parenting, his ex-wives aren't giving him boxing advice. Nah, man, I just think Ryan Garcia is an ungrateful, spoiled brat. I think he thinks he knows it all, like Teofimo Lopez. And the first thing that they always go and do, like females, is they go on Twitter and they voice their opinion rather than talk it out to their main people that have had their backs the whole time. They mention an advisor by the name of Guadalupe. Yeah, man, right? They always name him. And it could be true. You know, I don't know who that guy, Lupe, you know, who he's associated with. He doesn't really give out a lot of, if any, interviews. I know there's been some boxing scene articles where they talk where this gentleman of Lupe says, you know, I don't know why Oscar would talk bad about Ryan, one of his biggest clients, and things of that nature. So you are probably right. But you know what's crazy about Ryan is, oh man, how I would love to punch him on the nose. You know, give him a taste of his own medicine of the left hook. I got a better right hook. It's my left hook's kind of trash, but my right hook, you know, bah, it's fast and strong. But yeah, man, I think Ryan is ridiculous, man. If there was ever a person that you should look up to, would be Oscar De La Hoya. Not only do you guys more or less look alike, right? He's a gold medalist. I don't know, 4 or 5-time divisional champion, Oscar De La Hoya. Fought damn near everybody. Sold so many pay-per-views. Is basically responsible for the last 20 years of building stars from Floyd to Pacquiao and Canelo. That's Oscar De La Hoya, right? Has a top-tier promotional company. At once was running the game with Showtime and Richard Schaefer and company. Yeah, he did build Floyd. He promoted not only a lot of his fights, but when he fought him, he passed him the torch. Same thing with Manny Pacquiao, right? He went down and fought Manny Pacquiao and passed Pacquiao the torch as well, even quit on the stool. But yet somehow Ryan Garcia would rather listen to Floyd Mayweather. He would rather listen to Floyd Mayweather because Floyd Mayweather knows how to build fucking stars. Oh my goodness, man. Why would he listen to Floyd Mayweather? He let Mayweather get into his ear about the fight with Rolly Romero. And look how handsomely that worked out. Oh my goodness, man. If I'm Oscar De La Hoya, I'm dumping Ryan. I'll make a trade-off. I think we talked about this in the previous live. It's like, just trade Ryan Garcia and get 3 prospects in return, right? There was another cat that I dislike a lot because he badmouthed Oscar De La Hoya, and his name is Carlos Valderas. I don't know where Carlos was very agitated and angered at Oscar De La Hoya, but he badmouthed him before he was like turned pro. I think he was might have been like 3-0, and he was bad mouthing Oscar De La Hoya. It's like these guys don't have respect for what Oscar De La Hoya has not only achieved in life, but has continued to do. I'm not saying Oscar is perfect. Nah, man, I don't condone a lot of his behavior. But one thing is a private life, and the other thing is what he does in the sport of boxing. And Oscar is one of those pillars. Now, this is without saying that we can't criticize Oscar. No, we're very critical of him, right? Because he was giving us a bunch of malarkey fights with Canelo Alvarez. Like, nobody wanted to see him against Amir Khan or Liam Smith or a 164 match with Chavez Jr. Those fights did not precede the Triple G fight. So there was a lot of, you know, malarkey. I just look, guys. I'm gonna stop saying that word. Hold on. I need to breathe for like 3 minutes before I just keep saying. Hey, Speed, take it away, man. I'm on some BS, bro. Yo, my check real quick, man. Can you say something? Yes, I want some Taco Bell.
So I'm not too sure if you can hear me, homie Ricky, but I am here.
Now, yo,
Okay.
Speed.
Yeah, can you hear me, homie Ricky?
Yeah, I can hear you now, man.
Okay. Well, good even fall to you, homie Ricky, and good even fall to one and all. Thank you once again for inviting me over here, homie Ricky. And thank you in particular to all of our listeners around the world and here on these YouTube streets. I appreciate every single one of you all. And I would like to just say good even fall to Schlosker the Destroyer. Oi, oi, oi. El Pachuco. Saludos, compa. Vince Vargas. Go Niners! And whoever's out there who has yet to hop on. And thank you all for coming over here at this live. And you know what, homie Ricky? I was listening to that whole introduction. You were cooking, man. The
Oh, man.
Your introductions are the best thing about our lives. And unfortunately, they are very short in comparison to the whole gist of the video because we do tend to go 2 3 hours at a time and your intros are maybe 30 minutes at most. But I'm always impressed with how eloquent you are, how measured of words you are, where I am more verbose and it takes me 10, 20, 30 minutes for me to get to a point. You can say a lot of different things that are valid and substantiated and so many less words in it. I find it to be admirable. Thank you very much for carrying the majority of the show and the important stuff all by yourself. And thank you for allowing me to just fill everybody's minds with empty words. But I would like to just say that today was a very good day for me. I think um, I ran into a neighbor of mine. Uh, I went to buy some fruit and vegetables at one of the nearest fruit stands. And this neighbor of mine was a neighbor that I grew up with. This is a the father of children that I grew up with. We grew up for she's I guess maybe for 15 years of our life or so. And this gentleman here had four daughters. He had four daughters, and they were a next door neighbor. And we had four brothers, and we were their next door neighbor. And we were basically around the same age. You know, there was four girls and four boys, and all of us were around the same age. And we would play together, and we experienced a lot of different things together. Some good things, and some bad things, of course. Um, and I remember I had an opportunity after speaking to this gentleman who we caught up with. I walked in there looking like a homeless, right? Because I have this robe that if anybody has ever seen the movie The Big Lebowski, then you know what that robe is. It's a very comfortable army green colored robe that Jeff Lebowski, the main protagonist in this movie called The Big Lebowski, would wear. And I have the same robe. And I walked in there, you know, because it's a little chilly here in the city of Salinas, California, and furthermore, it's rainy. So I said, well, you know what? I'm just gonna take this comfortable robe, and I don't care what anybody thinks, right? I like to live life to the fullest, and I always hope that you guys live life to the fullest. Don't let the impressions that you may leave onto others, especially the strangers, deter you from feeling happy in your own skin. So I go in there just to buy a couple of habaneros and tomatoes and onions. And A man is picking tomatoes, and I'm picking the best tomatoes, and he looks at me, and I look at him, and he goes, do I know you?" And I looked at him, and come on, you can't forget a guy that you grew up with, and he's the father of some of your longest best friends, right? And so in about 5-10 minutes of talk, we caught up with about so many things. There was some good things and bad things. He told me how his mother had passed away. This is what it was, basically like the grandma of the block. Of course, that made me feel quite sad. And then he told me about his daughters, and he told me how one had settled herself and had established herself as a reputable nurse. I was very happy about that. The other one, after having gone through a lot of hardships in life, finally was able to procure housing for herself and her children. Three of them, he mentioned. I was very happy for that. And the other one, the youngest one, the third of the well, the third of the surviving ones, uh, he said she finally got out from the habit of strong drugs. And I, of course, became happy about it. But lamentably, I felt bad about it because he told me how bad she fell into that rut of hard times brought onto life because of substances. But then he said that she overcame those habits, those uh, drugs, and she is now on a good path of um, of wholesomeness, and that brought a smile to my face. But of course, it also made me reflect on one of the girls, the one that passed, and it just filled me with so many emotions, right? And I just had an opportunity in those 10 minutes to go through ups and downs of emotions, just hearing how a person's life has turned out to be for the past, I don't know, maybe 25 years now, maybe 30. I don't know when the last time that I seen him was. I'm 45 years of age as of the 30th of January. But I went through this roller coaster of emotions, and we hugged it out, and it was just a good, wholesome moment. And he told me how his mother passed away, and it was also a very wholesome moment. If there is anything wholesome about death, the way that he describes the passing of his mother, of the grandma, of the block, that was the story. And I just had an opportunity, homie Ricky, to just reflect on how wonderful youth was for me. How the block that I grew up in was always full of children. All the kids from all the surrounding blocks would come around, and we would ride bikes, and we would go trick or treating until 11:30 at night. We would play football in the streets. The streets were actually uh, places that you can play in. They weren't all cluttered and cloistered with vehicles and traffic and people doing sideshows. It was a very wholesome time. And I just had an opportunity to, in seconds, recall a lot of names and faces that I never thought I'd ever remember again. And for a person that has issues with memory and has done a lot of drugs, remember this is the guy that had a 5 gallon bucket of gasoline that I'd have in my room in the darkness, listening to punk rock and drum and bass. I had an opportunity to remember how good life was as a child. So, if anybody here is a father of children or maybe youthful themselves, please enjoy every single moment of your youth, of your children. Go out there and enjoy life because it is a very short and fleeting moment of existence. But when you realize that, you live life to the fullest. So I'm glad I ran into this gentleman. I feel very happy that I had this opportunity. And I guess you can say, homie Ricky, the word of the week is serendipity. Now, going back to all things boxing, right?
Wait, hold on, man. I don't
Mhm.
really like you putting out business like that out there.
Well, that's
But
fine. He
hey,
told me himself.
I'm glad you had a good day, bro. I'm glad you had a good day. But
I
go on.
you know me. I don't mention names, and for the most part, none of our listeners will even know who these folks are. But it is just if he felt comfortable in telling me and leaving an impact.
One thing is telling you, one thing is telling the whole world. Yesterday, you didn't even want to mention this fighter's name because you were mentioning his record. He was coming off a draw, but it's somehow okay just to spell like another person's beans. Maybe the whole world don't know but I know who you're talking about. And it's just like,
Yeah,
come on, bro.
yeah,
That's,
but
that's,
these are
that's a
the
situation.
stories.
That's a
These
story or a detail that's told in confidence. Not for, but hey,
no, no, no. Homie Ricky, we were in a fruit stand with a lot of people there and everybody listening. You see what I'm saying? These are men and women that don't cower nor hide their experiences to the world, right? They've lived life. I'm not saying no names. If he felt comfortable tell me to impact my life, I can say the same things. Why? Because this experience
you just
was
said you've
mine.
known him for like the past 20 years. He was
No,
a
no, no.
neighbor
I've known
growing
them
up.
probably
Why
longer
wouldn't he
now.
tell you? But anyway, look, man, go back on your word serendipity and then all out's boxing.
Uh-huh. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So there you go, guys. Just wanted to let you know these moments matter. And regardless of the fact that homie Ricky wants to feel offended, like I shouldn't be talking about people that are nameless and that have confided in me. And I similarly I am confiding in all of you for the impact that these words can leave on you. Similarly, I feel that the same reason he spoke to me in those words, revealing everything that he's lived with. Why? Because these are ways to connect, whether good or bad, they connect. Now, with the topic at hand, homie Ricky, basically malarkey, right? The BS, the things that the things that make this sport at times seem ridiculous, right? And when you proposed this live, I really was divided because I don't like to talk about the BS surrounding the sport, right? I don't like to focus on that. I like to focus on growing the sport. I like to report on the good. I do have to, obviously, this is the sport of boxing, report on the bad. But I really didn't think that we would necessarily have to talk about fantasy fights because I hate fantasy fights like Canelo versus Crawford, because I'm completely against those kind of things. But the way that you phrase things, I think it's a very valid point. The fact that you're bringing these things up, because guess what? Today, Crawford at the weigh-in, watching one of his fellow stablemates and he Sean Davis make weight to fight his opponent and Pedraza. He basically had these words to say when asked about fighting Teofimo Lopez, and he said F Tio, right? And like you just mentioned right now, why would Terence Crawford feel so strongly about being asked a question like that he would actually say the F word to a fellow pugilist when this fellow pugilist is moving quite similarly to him? In fact, we can probably, I don't know, maybe I'm being too controversial here, but maybe we can even probably look at the lineup of fighters that both of those guys have taken on in recent years and see who has fought in the better level of competition, who has fought at the more notable names, who has taken the riskier fights. And some would argue, I may be one of those, that Teofimo Lopez has been moving more bravely and more interestingly than Terence Bud Crawford. And some of us might actually say that the names on Teofimo Lopez's resume are more validated and accreditable than the names that Terence Crawford has taken on. Even though we know that Terence Crawford, by definition and by the actual historical aspect of it, is considered a two-time undisputed champion. But yet, by de facto, or in quite realistic terms, some of us can also say that Teofimo Lopez should be considered a two-time undisputed, right? So I'm not trying to be controversial here, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not trying to make Terrence Bud Crawford's resume or the movements in the sport of boxing seem less deserving of credit and of our appreciation. But is there any truth to what I'm saying, homie Ricky, that Teofimo Lopez is moving quite similarly, if not even better, uh, than Terrence Bud Crawford. And if Terrence Bud Crawford has the gall, the nerve to say F to that guy, then why shouldn't we say F to him when he wants to skip the line for multi-millions and take on a fighter the caliber of Saul Santos Alvarez Barragan? Isn't that quite similar what he's doing when he's walking away from fights like Boots Ennis, basically saying, I'm too good for that guy. What says about Teofimo Lopez FM is he's saying, I'm too good for that guy. So why should Canelo not say the same thing and say, I'm too good for that guy? And I don't know how I feel about it, homie. There's been some crazy things going on in the sport. Like, for example, just last weekend, right? Conor Ben. What happened? He didn't look his spectacular, dominating self. And what's the first thing that happened? All of a sudden, fighters that don't open up their mouth normally, like Javante Tank Davis, well, I guess you can say he opens up his mouth all the time, but all of a sudden, guess what? He has an interest in fighting that guy. Why? Because he looked bad. But how come nobody wants to fight Shakur Stevens when he looked bad? See, this is the funny thing, homie Ricky. And let me ask you something. You're a fighter. If somebody told you, I give you two fighters, see who you want to fight. Homie Ricky, do you want to fight Conor Ben or do you want to fight Shakur Stevens? Do you want to fight a guy who is explosive and has had a history of being a very aggressive knockout artist and Conor Ben? Or do you want to fight a safety first guy like Shakur Stevens who never goes for the kill? You would just have to say, do I want to go for the guy who's likely to beat me up or the other guy who's not likely to beat me up? But one guy might beat me and the other guy might beat me, but one guy won't hurt me and the other guy could actually leave me on my ass. Who would you take on a fight, homie Ricky?
Yeah, man. I mean, for me, because I do good against boxers. I don't do too well against come forward brawlers. Now, just because like I'm gonna have to fucking fight. There's just no way about it. And it's just like, all right, man, we're just gonna have to fight. So then it's kind of anybody's game. But I like the thinking man's boxing. So I can box really good. So I would rather, me personally, I would rather fight Shakur because it's slower pace. Anybody when it just becomes, you know, uh, like a Wild West firefight, it's anybody's game. I know I'm gonna leave with a back sore, neck sore, my fist all torn, bloody mouth, bloody nose, and that's anybody's game. So I would rather, like me personally, I mean, I'm not gonna back away from anybody, but if you're telling me between which one I get to choose, I would rather choose Shakur. You know, um, just because like I know I'm not gonna get into a big ass firefight, and it could be boring, but it is what it is. Now with Conor Ben, I know that I can try to outbox him, but we're gonna have to dog it out at some point, and or many points of that fight. And I know he packs a punch, so he's gonna get really excited. So it is what it is. But that's for me. Now, if I'm Tank, right? Yeah, then he'd rather engage a Conor Ben than a Shakur Stevenson. Mainly for the same reason that it's like he would rather he has a chance to really hurt Conor Ben, which I don't really think he'll be able to land that punch, right? Because Tank doesn't throw a lot of punches. He's very minimal. Like me, I would love to fight Tank because he doesn't throw a lot of punches, right? I know he hits hard, but I hit hard too. But if it's just a thinking man's game, and if Rolly can just beat him just because he's bigger and he can just throw a couple of jabs, then I can be disciplined. I don't need to engage in a firefight. So I would like to fight Tank and Shakur. You know what I mean? The
Yeah.
Mexicans know those I'm gonna be like a Vaquero Navarrete. I know it's just gonna be anybody's game and it's gonna be a world of hurt. And that's
Mhm.
what it is. Now, as for Tank, he probably likes fighting guys like Conor Ben that come to his natural counterpunching ability, and then boom, he can throw a brutal uppercut to the face, to the body, a hook, or whatever the case may be. And he knows that he will connect on guys like Conor, but he knows if Edwin de los Santos or Shakur come out to fight that manner, Tank ain't really gonna land that shot, you know. And if he does land that shot, he's gonna get peppered by 1,000 jabs before he gets the opportunity to land. So you know what I mean. So, but
Yeah.
even then, look, man, you mentioned before you go on to that last nonsense about Conor Ben, you talked a little bit about Teofimo Lopez and how he's moving very similar, if not better, than Bud Crawford, right?
Mhm.
Now, I don't know if you meant of late or if you meant career wise, because career wise, it's very similar. But you got to give Bud Crawford much more credibility because, kind of like Teo fought Sander Martin, nobody wanted to fight Victor Postol, and Bud Crawford did, right?
Mhm.
This is the same Victor Postol that beat and knocked out Lucas Matisse,
Mhm.
right? So that's that. At least, Victor Postol had been a champion and beating a Lucas Matisse from Golden Boy, whereas Sander Martin was never a champion, right? But nevertheless, Teofimo fought him. And a lot of people don't want to give Bud Crawford a lot of credit at welterweight, but he did beat Jeff Horn, who whether I don't think he beat Pacquiao, but nevertheless, he did everything in the world to get a victory over Pacquiao.
Yeah.
Headbutts, elbows, wrestling maneuvers, takedowns, leaning on him dirty work,
Mhm.
but Bud Crawford fought him in his first fight at welterweight. Then he went on to fight guys like David Avanesian. That's a good fighter, man. David Avanesian is a good, tough fighter, and as you can see, he was landing good punches on Bud Crawford. The problem was, I don't know why they didn't stitch up Bud Crawford's glove after it was, torn, which is, I don't know, the weirdest shit that I've ever seen. They should have stopped the fight, like they stopped multiple fights when they have to, adjust or change shoes or gloves or attire. That's very strange. But that's a very tough fight, David Avanesian, that a lot of people aren't going to fight, right? Like Eddie Hearn would not put Conor Ben up there against a guy like David Avanesian or a Mean Machine, the same Mean Machine that hurt and rocked Virgil Ortiz, the same Mean Machine that dropped Bud Crawford. That's an undefeated fighter at the time. Those are really good, credible wins. Now, going back to Teofimo Lopez, he's moving very similar to Bud Crawford. And when it's all said and done, he might have a better resume than Bud Crawford. But the way that Teo is moving, he's moving as a guy that's not going to be fighting at the age of 35. I think Teofimo Lopez will retire before the age of 30. Okay? Because I don't see Teofimo Lopez being at 154 pounder. At best, maybe 147.
Mhm.
Okay. So I don't really feel like there's a lot of big fights left for Teofimo Lopez. I know his career is barely starting, but the way that he's moving, like a legendary fighter, right?
Mhm.
These fights that he's taking, guys like Jermaine Ortiz, that's a very credible opponent. He's building himself quite a good little resume. These fights that he's taking on, they have to have rigorous training camps. To
Mhm.
prepare for a guy like Lomachenko, it's not easy. To prepare for a guy like Josh Taylor, not easy, right? And let's say T.O. fights Shakur. Let's say he fights Devin, maybe Ryan Garcia, Tank Davis. There's not many fights left. Subriel Matias. After all those 6 fights, T.O.'s probably going to feel burnt out. You know what I mean? Because they're going to take something out of him. I don't think he'll go past the age of 30. I don't think he'll be fighting at the age of 32, even though he only has like 20 fights. It's kind of like similar to like Lomachenko. They're on this really fast pace. You guys have to understand. I think Teal became a champion at 13-0 when he knocked out Richard Comey. I don't really remember how many fights were, but that's pretty incredible for a guy that doesn't have that much amateur fights like a Lomachenko. Like Lomachenko probably has like 3 to 4 times of fighting experience of Teofimo, yet Teofimo has already accomplished, if not the same or much more than Lomachenko. You see what I'm saying? It's very surprising, very surprising. I could be wrong, but you know, I like the way Teofimo is going about building his resume, and I hope he continues to become and be a legendary fighter, man. Because he's going after legacy. You see, he obviously wants big fights, but he's a legacy fighter, right? Devin Haney is similar. They're chasing big fights as well, but guess what? They're not gonna wait for a guy like Tank Davis or Ryan Garcia to answer the phone call and just be like, "Yeah, I'll fight you." No, they're going to take on the tough fights that we wish those fighters took, you know.
Oh,
And they might bitch and cry about it, but they're just putting pressure on you, and I like that. So Devin, to me, Devin and Tio are doing a really good job of building a little good resume for one another, and we'll see how long they can ride this wave. You know what I mean? But yeah, that's my take on that situation when you're trying to compare Bud and Tio. Did he get hopped out? Yeah. Yo, Speed, my check real quick.
yeah, 1 2 1 2. Yeah, I apologize for that, homie Ricky. I
You good?
accidentally stepped on my the the little port connecting thingy to my phone, and I guess once you lose that sound, that's it. So I couldn't hear the rest of what you were saying. Yeah, so I think all I'm trying to get at, homie Ricky, is that Terrence Bud Crawford should understand exactly what it feels like for for a fighter to be calling out another fighter and then that fighter dismissing him, right? Personally, he knows what that feels like. So for him to do the same thing all over again indicates that Terrence Bud Crawford, as an individual, has changed, right? And now,
How
what
so?
we'll recall that Terrence Bud Crawford was never really a charismatic, likable individual, right?
He
He
still
was
isn't.
he was very well. Now he's coming out of his shell, though. You know,
He's
now
never been a
he's
likable dude. He's never been a likable dude.
no, he's becoming quite a different individual, whether you like him or not. He's funny. He's clownish. He has a trollish side to him. He instigates and he taunts, and this is a fighter that was not moving like this before, right? He was very reserved, and I think, in fact, the most people know Terrence Bud Crawford for is for basically speaking for 11 minutes against his future nemesis, Errol Spence Jr. in that hallway after that Maurice Hooker fight in Vegas or something to that effect, right? Um, but otherwise, they've never really rarely ever considered Terrence Bud Crawford to be anything more besides a very dominant but quite boring fighter. In fact, he was quite boring to the point that he's never been able to sell pay-per-views. His
Yeah, but
most
that
highest
doesn't boring
his
doesn't
highest
necessarily equate to a
no
superstar. He
boring
was never
as
boring. He was never
is
boring.
boring as a individual, but I said exciting as a fighter. I said exciting and dominating, right? And even though he was so exciting and dominating as a fighter, people weren't able to gather their money up to support that guy financially, right? This guy, I'm sure, is a kind of fighter that has been seen in all of his fights in the millions of views. But guess what? It's never translated to millions of pay-per-view sales, right? People just didn't like Terrence Bud Crawford, not because of his fighting style or because he's not exciting, but likely because they just never felt attached to him because he was very distant and reserved. Right. But now that he's talking more, now all of a sudden he's coming out of his shell. Now he's becoming this more trollish, humorous type. And now people are starting to rally around him. And now they want to see the impossible. They want to see Terrence Bud Crawford skipped 3 divisions to fight the cash cow and Canelo. Why? Because all of a sudden that guy is bombastic and trollish, and he has a humorous side. Now, in the case of Teofimo Lopez. I don't know what people seem to dislike about this guy. I continue to hear people say that they don't think he's charismatic, and I'll ask you, homie Ricky. I think you're in that clan, right? You don't find Teofimo Lopez to be too charismatic, too likable, or do you?
Yeah, I don't find Bud or Teofimo to be likable at all. In fact, they're very similar than they are different. The way that they move, that the way that they I mean, you have to understand Bud Crawford sued Bob Arum, right, and Top Rank. And what was the reason for that? He didn't even win. But the reason was because they weren't making the big fights more or less happen, and they essentially weren't treating him well. But yet they overpaid him for every single one of those fights that were very unpopular, right? Teofimo Lopez burns bridges with Bob Arum at Top Rank, and he takes the fight to purse bid on a George Kambosos fight, basically the same rhetoric. Man, all these black fighters are getting paid much more money than me, right? This is Teofimo's words. So he decides to take matters into his own hands by not signing, right, and overvaluing himself after beating Lomachenko, right? And he goes and burns bridges with Bob Arum. Bob Arum says the chickens are going to come home to roost one day and all this narrative. And then he loses, and then he burns bridges with his own and Eddie Hearn because he robbed him that fight against George Kambosos. This is Teofimo Lopez. This is Bud Crawford. These gentlemen have never been likable. Never been likable. Okay, now they're fantastic fighters, but Teofimo Lopez is one of his friends for like the past decade was Rolly Romero. And he leaks footage of Teofimo beating his ass. And then he gives out the spiel that he's injured and has neck injuries. And that's why he hasn't been fighting after, getting beat by Ismael Barroso. So how is that Teofimo any likable thing? And let me address some of these comments from Boxing Magic. Teo beating prime fighters and Haney is not. No, he's not. Name one prime fighter that Teofimo Lopez beat. Lomachenko? Did he not have a shoulder injury? Did Teofimo fight a quote-unquote prime George Kambosos and get dropped in the first round? And did he not lose that fight? Okay, what about when Teo moved up to 140? Who was his first 140 fighter? Right? And what was after Sandor Morin? He fought a prime Sandor Morin, but did he beat Sandor Morin? No. Sandor Morin dropped him 2 times. And then he fights Josh Taylor. Was Josh Taylor prime? No. Jack Catterall beat him. Jack Catterall not only beat him, he dropped him, right? And then Josh Taylor was having a bunch of surgery. So name me one prime fighter that Teofimo Lopez has beaten. Maybe the Nakatani kid. And you can make an argument that that Japanese Mayoyoshi Nakatani beat and now jabbed Teofimo Lopez. You can make that argument. Whereas Devin Haney beat the guy that beat Teofimo Lopez and George Kambosos. And you can also make an argument that Regis Prograis beat Josh Taylor. Okay? So, bro, you're wrong on all situations.
But making an argument, homie Ricky, or
Hold on.
losing a fight does not mean you're not prime.
I
That
guess
just
we'll
means you
agree to
lost.
disagree. Bud's resume is weak, especially the level of hype that he gets. Horn is not a quality win. Little Pacquiao beat him. Yeah, I agree. I thought Pacquiao beat Horn, but he was a 5 or a 7-1 favorite against Jeff Horn, and he went the distance with a school teacher who Bud Crawford knocked out. Manny Pacquiao couldn't even knock him down. Bud Crawford knocked him down 4 times and stopped him. So you got to also look at the quote-unquote eye test of how impressive of a fashion a fighter is getting dominated. So, I mean, I know, look, I'm not the biggest Bud Crawford fan here, but the dude is fucking legit. I don't like him. I would love for David Benavidez to beat him up, but the reality is it's just, it ain't going to happen, but Bud Crawford, that dude is solid. I think El Pachuco goes on and double down something about the win over Sean Porter. Yeah, we know Sean Porter is kind of semi-retired, right? Kind of the same thing that, Jaime Munguia beat John Ryder, kind of semi-retired or having that honest retirement talk. This is my last rodeo. If I don't come, and I don't win, it's going to, I'm going to hang him up. But I don't know where we had our stance on that. Some could be a sign of a weakness. Others can be like, man, he's already thinking about retirement. Others can be like, oh, he's just being honest with himself. But the reality is nobody had stopped Sean Porter. And again, similar to Jeff Horn, Bud dropped him twice. And then his daddy threw in the white towel. And no one had been able to do that. And I know these guys were friends, but you can say that Bud Crawford has essentially retired a lot of these welterweights ever since he moved up to his third weight class. That's pretty incredible, right? Um, Boxing Magic goes, Crawford hasn't even fought Thurman. And who is Thurman? Thurman's trash. Thurman got beat by a 42-year-old Manny Pacquiao, got dropped in the first, second round, and then got hurt with a body shot late. This is the same Thurman that says a Mexican hasn't even, he's never lost to a Mexican, yet he's never even fought the best Mexicans. And what do you think Thurman would do against a Virgil Ortiz? What are we talking about here? Brian Mendoza would fucking work Thurman. And you guys are going to find out that Tim Tszyu is going to work him too. Right? Thurman will start off good. He's got good little legs. He's got good little hooks. Bro, but you've been inactive fighting twice the past 3 years. Good luck. You see what I'm saying? And I'm a fan of Keith Thurman. But when he had all the power, he was reluctant to give us all these fights. That's the matter of the fact. Why would these guys, Bud Crawford and Errol Spence, return the favor and give Keith Thurman an opportunity where he basically shunned them? What did Thurman say to Bud Crawford? Hey, little homie, get a belt first. All right, Bud does that. He beats Jeff Horn. Bud tries to talk to him. Man, who was Jeff Horn? Who was all this? And then you never heard about Keith Thurman ever calling out Crawford or any of these dudes. So, like, at the end of the day, we can play this game that's going back and forth. And I don't want to defend Bud because there's nothing to defend. I don't like the dude, But the reality is, these PBC fighters, I'm not going to, put my cape on for PBC fighters. These dudes that are inactive, why would I do that? Top Rank, we already know, signs the best elite fighters. They always have and they always will. That's why when every PBC fighter fights a Top Rank fighter, who wins? Top Rank. Because they know the talent. They know what they're looking for. They got amazing things. So if you want to, boxing Mexican side or whatever, you want to side with Keith Thurman in the PBC, do your thing, bro. It's going to be on you. Shit ain't on me.
Yeah. But I just want to correct a couple of things for me, Ricky. I can't let you slide with those kind of things.
Oh, which one?
You construed a fighter taking a loss to being out of his prime.
Which one?
You said it yourself. You said that when see, now you're trying to play with my mind, but you did say that Teofimo Lopez did not beat a prime fighter in Josh Taylor, because you can argue that Josh Taylor had lost to Jack El Gato Cateral. You said that. And I'm just trying to tell you.
And then
I'm trying to tell you. Well, here's the thing. Teofimo Lopez has undergone procedures. Terence Bud Crawford has undergone procedures. Manny Pacquiao, Juan Manuel Marquez, all of those guys have undergone procedures. But you would never say that they were outside of the prime when they ended up taking some of the hardest fights after they had already sustained losses. I'm trying to correct you on that. Do not construe having taken a loss or being a defeated fighter to be outside of your prime. Manny Pacquiao, all of the greats have proven that you can take a loss, and that does not have nothing to do with whether you're prime or not. You just lost. When you take the best fights on possible, you're going to win some, you're going to lose some. That's just it. It has nothing to do with whether you're in your prime physical fighting ability. It just means that sometimes matchups come up to play against you and you lose them. Circumstances come to play against you and you lose them. I just wanted to make sure that we got that part straight. And another thing that I want to correct you, as a boxing fan myself, you said something. You said, I don't like Terence Bud Crawford and I want David Benavidez to beat him up. And all I'm trying here's the thing. That's okay. My responsibility as a fan of the sport, my first priority should be respecting and liking the fighters that are making fights happen, that are taking on the best fights. And in the case of Terence Bud Crawford, he's taken on some of the toughest fights where other people wouldn't. Kevin Liauskas, it was a fighter that was ducked by Danny Garcia. Danny Garcia ducked that guy.
Hold on,
right?
But this is the same Bud Crawford. I stated all that. What you said.
Yeah. But what you're saying is, you don't like Terence Bud Crawford.
I listen. This is the same guy, Bud Crawford, that you were telling me if he's a likable dude, and I said no. Him and T are not likable dudes because look how they treated Bob Arum when they did right by them. That's one. And then two, this is the same Bud Crawford that walked away from the first Errol Spence negotiation fight to fight David Avanesian, and then he had I don't know, a weird glove, if that's what you want to call it. Okay,
Yeah,
so
but
like,
all those other the money talk and everything, I really don't know because depending on who you speak with, some side of the street will tell you, oh, they offered him all this kind of money. The other side of the street will say, no, they were offering me a pittance. I don't know what the truth of it is, but what I'm trying to say is that as a fan of the sport, the very first thing that we have to do is appreciate the fighters. For the fights that they're providing us. That's how you win over a boxing fan, or you should be. But
hold
I
on.
just want to make sure that we're not liking fighters because of their personality, but because of the fights that they're taking on. In other words, what I'm trying to say is the fans of Terrence Bud Crawford don't like don't like him for the fights he's taking on. That's why they don't support him financially. But yet now they're starting to like him because of his personality change. And I'm trying to tell you, don't love these boxers, don't appreciate these boxers because of their personality. Appreciate them for their fights. That's how we're gonna save the sport.
All right. So first and foremost, before I get to that, you talked about Josh Taylor, and I was
Yes,
like, because
sir.
he took a loss. Let me ask you this: what constitutes a prime fighter?
Yeah, I'm not. I don't know what
Okay,
that
okay. So
constitutes a
would
prime
you say
fighter.
that a fighter that hasn't fought over a year and 4 months, coming off injury and possibly a defeat and getting dropped, inactivity, would you call a fighter that's prime inactive? Would you call a fighter that's a prime inactive fighter?
If we compare them to how
Okay, so
fighters are
basically,
fighting
the reason
nowadays,
why I'm
yes, homie
answering the
Ricky,
question like this,
that would be
hold on,
prime.
hold on.
That would be prime.
Josh
I'm
Taylor,
answering it right now. It would
when
be
he
prime
fought
because it's
Teofimo,
quite typical for these fighters to fight once a year.
not
Tyson
Josh
Fury,
Taylor.
Tyson Fury,
No, wait.
Joshua, Wilder, all of these people have taken on fights with long layoffs.
Hold on.
Canelo, I think he's also had a layoff or two. Vivo Better BF has also had his history, his whole resume basically has been fighting once a year because he's always injured. He's always on the long layoff. Would you
Who?
say Artur Beterbiev? Would you say that he's not prime?
Oh, hold on. Before we get to Artur Beterbiev, because we're talking about Josh Taylor here.
Oh
You
no,
can't
no,
just
I'm
you
giving you
can't just try
examples.
to answer the
You
question.
answered. You
Look,
asked me a question. You asked me a question, buddy.
hold
You
on.
asked me, is this guy
Josh
on the
Taylor.
long layoff with an injury not
Hold
a
on.
prime fighter? And I told you he is because that's typical for the sport in the
Josh
current
Taylor.
milieu.
Hold on. It's not typical for Josh Taylor.
Typical
This is
for
what you have to stay
Turbiev.
on. This you got to answer the question based on Josh Taylor. You can't just hop on Artur Beterbiev. We'll get to that fucking guy.
It's a
But
perfect
hold on.
example.
Josh Taylor. It is very atypical for Josh Taylor to fight once a year. Okay, if you go look at his when he turned pro back in I don't know 2014, 2016, the dude was fighting 3 to 4 times yearly. Okay, when he fought Jose Ramirez, that's when it started to only happen once every other year, and that's when he started to have a lot of surgery. He got married, had back surgery, shoulder surgery, knee surgery. When he fought Teofimo Lopez, basically coming off Jack Catterall, a fight where he had surgery on his knees, then he got dropped and basically lost to Jack, and I think he had surgery again. Then after a layoff of a year and 4 months, fought Teofimo Lopez. That wouldn't constitute as being in your prime, let alone he probably should have been to 147. Okay. Now, as for Beterbiev, right? I gotta look up his resume, but I do know that he fights, I don't know, once a year, but he's also pretty old. So maybe he's doing it to preserve his
There
as
you
to your
go.
point.
There,
As
oh
to
no,
your
see,
point.
see, that's
Because of
funny
that
though.
surgery as
See,
well.
when it works for the older
That's
guy, he's
skinny.
preserving his career and his health. But yet, when the younger guys are taking on 3 or 4 fights a year, you don't think they're subjecting themselves to peril and harm and physical toil and weathering on their body? What are we trying to talk about here? The person, see, what I'm trying to say at homie Ricky is that there is no quantifiable uh, or maybe even qualitative way to tell when a fighter is at his prime or not. Everybody is different. That's what I'm trying to tell you.
So what
Not
you're
one
trying to
thing
tell
does
me,
not apply for everybody.
you would say that Artur Beterbiev is in his prime right now. At
I
40
would say
years old,
yes.
At
I
40
would
years
say
old,
absolutely.
at 40 years old, you
Absolutely.
would tell me that Artur Beterbiev is in his prime right now.
I would say so, yes. And
I will disagree.
it's actually being proven furthermore as he goes on with his career, because with every single
Who
fight
has
he takes
Artur
on
fought?
even. Oh my
Who has
god.
Artur
Oh,
fought?
okay, there you go, guys. Okay, well then let's just do that
No,
for
no, answer the
everybody, right?
question. Who has Artur fought?
He just fought Joe Smith, right? He just fought what's his name? The black kid who gave him heck. Man, you're playing with my mind because I don't have a good memory.
All right, all
But
right,
you're
all right.
gonna know, oh goodness. Everybody, why don't we
Joe
call this
Smith.
guy out and answer his questions because I
Listen,
don't have that memory,
Listen,
man.
Joe Smith Jr., he's really only known for knocking out a 50-year-old Bernard Hopkins out of the ring, or a 42-year-old Bernard Hopkins out of the ring, or a 45-year-old. I don't know how old he is. That's what Joe Smith Jr. is known for. Okay.
Okay, so wait. So is he prime or not?
Hold on, relax. And then you said the black kid, Anthony Yard. Who is
Yeah,
Anthony?
Anthony.
Who's Anthony Yard? Has he been a champion?
Homie Ricky, let me ask you something. Why are you trying to obfuscate?
Hold on. Anthony Yard was, I don't know, 17-0, and he got dropped and KO'd by Sergey Kovalev by a jab.
Actually, wasn't he winning that fight? I'm pretty sure he was winning that fight until he got dropped.
Hold on, a 35-year-old Sergey Kovalev. Okay,
and he was winning that fight.
That Artur Beterbiev has been in is when he beat Alexander Volzdik. Alexander Volzdik, the same guy that put Adonis Stevenson in a coma. Okay, that was probably, I don't know, 2017, 18, 19, one of those years. Basically like 6 years ago when Artur was, I don't know, 34, 33. So when I tell you if Artur is in his prime and you're like, I think so, at age 40, I don't think so.
Didn't he also beat Marcus Brown?
Fighting him now.
Didn't he also beat Marcus Brown? The guy who isn't he also the guy who beat Marcus Brown? If I'm not mistaken, wasn't Marcus Brown the guy who ended up going 2 fights against Zurdo Ramirez?
Who's Mark? No, that's Jesse Hart. Marcus.
Oh,
Brown,
Jesse Hart. Yeah,
that beat up his wife, right? And this is the same dude that got beat or dropped 4 times by Jean Pascal, a 40-year-old. That's Marcus Brown. And the only reason why he was putting Beterbiev in his place is because he gave him a nasty-ass headbutt that had a big-ass gash in his forehead.
Homie Ricky, I think we're obfuscating and confusing a couple of things. Well, we're trying to. You asked me a question, right? I know, but you asked me a question, and you asked me whether it's a premise, and now you're basically trying to use the record of Artur Beterbiev to say that you don't know when his prime is. He's not a prime when he knocks out Cat. What up? Oh no! You're saying that a prime it has to do with beating the best guy. That's it. That's it. So that's activity. The best guy.
No. Also activity.
Homie Ricky's fighting once a year for the past 6 years.
Hold on, let me tie it all together. Just like Josh Taylor and Artur Beterbiev, both of them are no longer in their prime. Beterbiev, like Josh, when they were in their prime, they were fighting more than 2 to 3 times a year. Okay. After a certain fight, Josh Taylor, after Jose Ramirez, it became 1 fight every year. He has 3 fights or 4 fights in 3 years. That's not active. It's not in his prime. Artur Beterbiev, after that Volzdik fight, like in 2018, 17, or 19, I forgot exactly the year, has basically fought once every single year. And guess what? He's having surgeries and injuries.
And he still becomes triumphant.
But they're still very good to beat fighters.
And he still comes out triumphant. I guess let me ask you something. You're gonna say that that Artur Beterbiev was prime when he fought one guy 6 years ago. Okay, so guess what? I guess that just makes him even more impressive. A guy who's nearing 40 years of age, who is fighting much younger men, what is sustaining injuries, including injuries of the bone. I think he just barely came out from some kind of a treatment of cancer on the part of his body that had cancer in his bones, if I'm not mistaken. That was one of the reasons why he was laid off in the past 2 years or so. That guy is still able to beat men that are much younger and fresher than him, even though they've not been as shop worn. yeah, I'm not too sure if we're gonna say that a fighter that has been accustomed to fighting once a year since 2017 is somehow not not prime, but I don't know, homie Ricky. I guess you know when prime is. I guess you can tell me when Manny Pacquiao's prime year was. Can you remember when he was prime, homie Ricky?
Yeah, when
Can
he
you remember
knocked
when
out
Manny?
Miguel Cotto.
Oh, okay. That's it. Nothing else. Nothing else before. Nothing else after. And Mayweather. When was he prime?
Mayweather was prime. I'm gonna say when he fought. Ooh, when did he fight Miguel Cotto? I know he
I don't
fought
know. He's
before
undefeated.
Pacquiao.
I don't know. He's undefeated and he beat everybody.
Now, but undefeated doesn't mean that you're in your
And he
prime.
had long layoffs.
Undefeated doesn't mean that you're in your prime. It just
He
means you
came
have
back
not
from
been.
He came back from being 2 years retired from the sport, and he still came back triumphant.
But that was against Marquez at like 144.
Mhm. He still came out triumphant against a guy who had just barely came back from beating, having a trilogy at that moment, if I'm not mistaken, against Manny Pacquiao and I think Rocky Juarez, a couple of those Texan guys, and he was active. So,
I
so
would
I
say
guess
Floyd
Marcus,
Mayweather
I
was
guess
in his
Marcus
prime
was in
when he
prime
fought
right there,
Oscar De
right?
La Hoya. That was,
Prime,
I
he
don't
was
know
in
the
prime right
year,
there.
2000 and I don't know, 2009, 2010, when Floyd was 30 years old. Whenever he fought Oscar De La Hoya, that's when he was in his prime.
All right. Well, hopefully everybody else can give their opinion of when Manny Pacquiao was prime, when the exact moment, that one fleeting moment that we can say he was prime, not before, not after, just that moment is when he was prime. Because I guess according to homie Ricky, prime means you're one, undefeated, two, you're fighting 3 or 4 times a year. That
He never
usually
said
applies to
anything
the
about
younger guys,
undefeated.
homie Ricky. That usually applies to the younger guys that have the kind of energy and they still have to climb up the ranks. Once you're established, like I just told you, it's typical for you to fight once a year.
No, it's
It
not. It's
doesn't
not
apply
typical.
to it is because I'm telling you, you can look at Errol Spence's career and you can still
That's
say
why he's
that
not in his prime, bro.
he's not in his
Because
prime
when you're
now.
fighting once a year, it's not prime, bro. It's
Yeah,
pretty
okay.
like
Anyways,
true.
I think
Honestly,
everybody.
bro.
I
I
don't
can't.
think there is a formula that for determining who is prime and who is not prime, homie Ricky. I don't think it works like that. I
My
think
God,
one of the reasons why
it's
there
true
is no
statement. I
consensus.
told you.
uh,
I don't know how
okay,
many times I have to repeat myself. A
yeah, all
prime
right, man.
fighter
Yeah,
is
you
an
got all the
active
answers,
fighter.
buddy.
Hold on.
Yeah,
A prime fighter is an
yeah.
active fighter, a busy fighter. That's what it is. When a fighter starts to fight one time a year, so apparently it's common for you, like guys like Josh Taylor and Artur Beterbiev and Sergey Kovalev, if that's prime to you, just because they're still champions or undefeated, right? Josh and Beterbiev at the time, they still are, or were. Apparently, that no. What I'm saying is, an active fighter is a prime fighter, not one that's coming off long surgeries and injuries, or once a year. Drew, mic
Yo,
check real
what's
quick,
up,
brother.
man?
Oh,
God, dude. Yeah,
You
man.
guy.
I'm gonna keep it
okay,
short
here we
tonight.
go with the guy that knows everything about Prime. Why don't you side with homie Ricky and tell me when Manny Pacquiao was Prime, Mayweather was Prime, Marcus was Prime? Can you tell me when who's Prime right now? Is it better be of Prime, Drew, or not?
All right, man. So, not only do I know what prime means, but I also know when to let people talk. And
Oh, hey, I think he's rubbing that in right there, homie Ricky.
No, he's talking to you. You keep interrupting, bro.
all right,
Weren't you
man.
doing the same thing?
All right, cool. We good now? All right.
No, we're
Um.
not.
Uh-oh.
It,
All right.
Go
Okay.
for it, Drew. Because
it,
go for it, Drew.
Yeah, he's crazy, man.
it,
Um. Oh, see the boxing gods. He's cutting out. Thank God. But he's So, anyways, yeah. The what's his name? That was such a long question, man. You just keep going and going, but I'm gonna just answer your beater beef
you
question,
have a
bro.
short-term memory.
I'm gonna just answer your beater beef question, right? Like I think beater beef. I think in a sense he's still kind of learning more and more about himself, just because he's never really made it past a certain amount of rounds. and I feel like he's learning about his wind, and obviously we're starting to see the real beater beef, because this dude just looks like a machine, bro. Like he looks like he's just dominating everyone, bro. So I think it's more like he just needs to actually make it like all the way, like to a unanimous decision for us to fully understand who this guy is. But I feel like Beaterbeeve is reaching his peak right now. I think Beaterbeeve stays in shape. I think he doesn't take breaks. I don't think this dude like doesn't party. It seems like he doesn't do any of that. So I don't even think he touched a cigarette before, bro. So I think when you live a life like that, bro, you can actually reach your peak at a way later age, and if you're maintaining your body. um it's really the lifestyle that I look at, especially if you have one like Beaterby, like a Bernard Hopkins. You're not doing any of that shit, like smoking. It's the little things that we do, like on the weekly basis, that kind of add up. And
So you're
if
not
you ain't
prime.
if
So
you ain't you talking about me now? Go ahead.
Absolutely.
so Drew, so you think Beterbiev at age 40 fighting one time a year and coming off basically like injuries or medical reports or surgeries, you don't think Bivol aged him out?
Who? Oh, Bivol and who? And Canelo?
And Beterbiev,
Oh, Batirbiev? Nah, I mean, like, it doesn't matter, bro. Like, I think after a certain age, like, if you live a certain lifestyle, I think you can do it for however long, bro. Like, it's how he's taking out his opponents, bro. Like, honestly, if you're taking out your opponents the way Beater Beef is, that means he's better shape than you, and he's stronger than you, and he knows how to pick his shots a little better. I mean, he is a little bit wild, like in the first round of that Colin Smith fight, like he was already like in trouble, So I think right then and there, you just can't handle the smoke, bro. Like I think you need to be durable with your chin and your whole and your stance and all that. I think Bivol has that good stance, but man, I think it's one of those fights where I think Bivol's just he's just all that damage is gonna add up, and I think he's gonna take down Bivol, bro. Like I don't think Bivol would have the enough power to keep him honest. Because I see, just by the way, I seen the Arthur, that last fight with him and Arthur, I forget his name,
yeah,
um
like Lyndon Arthur.
Lyndon Arthur, and he wasn't like his Arthur wasn't really respecting his power, and he kept coming, and it looked like he was capable of putting him out. He just couldn't. I was just like, man, like this kind of disappointing in a sense, because you're supposed to take him out. Um, but yeah, man, I think dudes like Beaterbeef. I think Beaterbeef is like one of very few, bro. Like I can't really say the same about a lot of other fighters, and it's really him because of his lifestyle. But I don't know what were the other names you guys saying. I think Bernard Hop. You said Bernard Hopkins.
Nah, so let me put it to you like this. It's pretty simple. A prime fighter, right? Everybody, as we all know, everybody has a different, ticking bomb, so to speak.
Learning curve too.
But learning curve, I mean, look, Jaime Munguia should not be learned after like 50 fights. I mean, you're always going to be learning in life, so he's always
Right.
going to learn something. But you are who you are, at a certain point. It's
It's
just like, all
different
right,
for the
let me
heavier
just
weights.
enhance what you are naturally. But let me put it to you like this: Josh Taylor, 31 years old, maybe 33 now, I don't know, 34, 35. Beterbiev, 40 years old, 39 to 41, somewhere in between this range. Both fighters are inactive, come out long layoffs, and coming off surgeries. They fight damn near once a year. Before then, go look at their resumes. They were fighting like 2 to 3, sometimes up to 4 times a year. Okay. That's all I got to say about
No,
that.
I think
They have a
Beaterbeef.
similar situation. So a prime fighter is on not only just age, but also the level of activity. As long as you're active, looking for Canelo. Guy has like, I don't know, 50 something, 59 fights. He's probably 34 years old. The dude still fights minimum of 2 times a year. That's pretty active.
I feel like
Rather
it's
than
different for the
once
bigger
every other
guys.
year. Say again?
I feel like it's different for the bigger guys. Like bigger guys have more time to actually acclimate in their weight, and I feel like there's so many more styles that they
These
can
guys are only
face
7 pounds heavier than Canelo. How are they that much bigger guys? Are we
because
talking
you
about
can
heavyweights here?
because you can even 168 pounders, bro. You can they can still be 6'4", 6'5", and you can still be fighting a dude that's 5'11", 5'10", in
I
that
know,
weight
but
class.
Sebastian Fundora is like 6'6" and he's
He's
154
he's
pounds.
different. He's an anomaly though. Most guys that fight at 147 are our height, our size at 5'9". At 168, they stretch out a lot more. You get the 6'4" guys ranging from 6'4" down to like 5'9", 5'10".
Why do
Like
you
so
bring up bigger guys? What does that have to do with anything?
because they have more there's more styles for them to acclimate through, and they would have there's more there's different types of athletes that they're dealing with, and there's more body types that they're dealing with. I feel like in 147 weight class, it's really a smaller gap in height, and the heavier you get, the more that gap ranges. Like that's the difference what I'm seeing. That's why it does matter for the heavier weight classes, because you do have more time to learn, and you can actually pick off what type of fighters you want to fight. I think Jared Anderson has a plethora of options because like look how many times he's been fighting this year. There's
Whoa,
so
whoa,
many
whoa. Okay,
options for
hold on.
him.
Just so we don't get too far. So what is your conclusion after, the bigger guys having to acclimate to much different heights and sizes and reach? Does that mean that they're gonna have much more wear and tear or much more they're gonna age or get out of their prime much quicker? What are you saying?
No, they just well, it's different. Depends who we're talking about. Not everyone is a Muslim and lives a lifestyle that Beater Beef lives.
Whoa, whoa,
Like,
whoa. Okay, hold on. I think we're having two different arguments here. Okay,
yeah,
you keep focusing on lifestyle, right? How they don't drink, how they don't smoke, how they have to have abstinence from sex and
I
be
didn't say that. I
monks.
don't know
I
about
know,
that.
I know, it's a
I,
joke. It's a joke. But what
okay.
I'm saying, lifestyle, how how you live, how you eat, how you treat your body outside, how you rehab. Obviously, that takes a toll, but that's neither here nor there. All I'm saying is pretty simple. All right, Deontay Wilder, Josh Taylor, and Artur Beterbiev. The only damn near fight, it seems, one time a year. They're no longer in their prime. Yes, Archer is undefeated. Yes, Vasily, what's his name? Josh Taylor only has one loss. Wilder has three losses, right? It's not like they have a Gabriel Soto record. No. Level of activity is all I'm saying.
But Beater
They're
Beef
not
hasn't shown a
active.
drop
They're no
off.
longer in their prime.
No
And
drop
they have
off.
different ages. One dude is 40, Wilder's probably 37, and one cat's 31. It's
And
pretty
one,
simple, is what I'm saying.
but one hasn't had a drop off, and that's Beater Beef. We haven't seen no drop off from him.
I've seen significant drop off in his game. If you compare the Archer versus Alexander Volstick, if you guys just watch him versus Volstick
I gotta
versus
watch.
him versus I don't know, there's a significant drop off. Significant drop off of level of competition, of how sharp and how brutal he is. Now he has to circle around and change up his game plan when before he didn't have to do that. There's a lot of signs there, let alone his age and inactivity. There's a lot of drop off.
I gotta
Some
watch
would
that
say
fight
How
then.
do you think Bill
some would say that that just means that even in an elder age, he's still learning more tricks and to implement him in the sport of boxing. That might just be imagination and attaining of new skill set. The
You got
fact that he's
400
able to move
amateur fights.
around it doesn't matter. He's one of those like Drew states, he's one of those anomalies that guess what? He defies the standard belief that you can teach old dogs new tricks. If he is still good enough to learn something new, that's a commendable thing. And I wouldn't necessarily say, oh, he's no longer prime because he's now able to throw a little extra kick in a step, a
Well,
little
you're using
skip in a step.
fancy words, but let me ask you this: what new tricks have you seen from Archer that he hasn't done before?
Let's just say this because I'm getting tired of thinking. Thinking is a
You
young
can't just say a
man's
statement and
sport.
not back it up.
Thinking is a young man's activity. I'm an old fart.
So you're
Let's
no
do this.
longer in your
Why don't we
prime.
just say? Why don't we just say this? When a fighter retires, the half life of that fighter's career is his prime. How about we keep it simple? If a
Okay,
fighter
so
fights for 20 years and he 10 years is where he's at his peak, let's just
so
keep it
you've been
simple.
saying you and Drew both state that Artur Beterbiev is in his prime. When I ask you guys why do you guys say that, or there's a new trick that he's learning, well, what is that? You don't think in the amateurs he was circling around like he did against Joe Smith? Go watch him versus Alexander Usyk. He was showing you the same circling tricks, and guess what? He actually dropped Usyk to a body punch. He's not even a prolific body puncher in the pros. And if he just drops Bivol with a body punch, all of a sudden he's a Mexican body puncher warrior? No, he's been doing it. He circles just because he did it because he finally has to do it at age 39 doesn't mean he wasn't doing it at age 26 or 24 in the amateurs. We just don't know too much about him because the cat only has 19 fights. So when
Yeah.
you guys say, "Oh, he's got
Well,
a
400 fights, according to you, right? Because you use his amateur record when you want to. You like to use his amateur record when you want to. So he doesn't have 19 fights. He has 419. So if you guys don't mind, let's just read a couple of these comments from our listeners. Because in fact, while we've been bickering and arguing about what prime means, and I'm pretty sure that none of us know the answers for every single fighter. I think we can at least read some of these comments here from people that seem to be much more reasonable and at least more civilized with their discourse and their opinions. So let's just start off right here with Truly Trey. And the good even fought to you, Truly Trey. He states, Bud took Spence's momentum and ran with it. In fact, if you'll remember correctly, Spence was being hyped up to fight Canelo at a catch weight of 164. And he ends it by dropping the mic and he states the following: beating Spence in the fashion he did savaged his career. So I guess what he's trying to say here, Truly Trey, is that the beatdown that Terrence Bud Crawford executed on on Errol the Truth Spence Jr. salvaged his career, because had he fought Canelo at 164, Canelo would likely have destroyed him and made sure that that guy never stepped in the ring again. Let me ask you something real quick, just a quick up and down. If Terrence Bud, I mean, if Errol Spence Jr. fought Canelo at the catch weight, do you guys imagine Canelo would have destroyed the Truth Spence Jr. as bad or worse than Terrence Bud Crawford? Yes or no?
This is before accident or after accident? Because I think when Errol Spence called out Canelo was in 2017 or so before the accident.
No, I would say the same time that that Crawford fought him. Like instead of Crawford fighting Spence, you plug in Canelo at 164.
Yeah, dude, fucking Arrow's fucking depleted, bro. He's got to have facial reconstructive surgery. He's got to have new teeth. Got to do a bunch of things.
Yeah, but he would have at least not had to suck down to 147, because recall that the speculation of a lot of the boxing world was that he had already been about 6 7 years into that weight, professionally and as a champion, fighting at 147, and that he, especially after those long layoffs after his accident, that he was likely already too big for 147 and was struggling to make weight, so wouldn't have gone up in weight, allowed him some ability to not strain his body so well and become a bit more capable of fighting more aptly, or would you guys imagine Canelo putting on a big fight like that? Because what I'm thinking is this: I think Canelo would have just beaten that boy, beaten him up really quickly, knocked him out, and he wouldn't have needed 9 10 rounds like Crawford did. It might have been 4 or 5. He would have spared him all kinds of punishment, because the punches that Canelo would have landed on Terrence Bud Crawford would have been concussive and definitive, conclusive, in fact. And I think that in the case of Crawford, the reason he was able to beat on that man for 9 rounds was because Terrence Bud Crawford was actually once a fighter that was fighting 2 weight classes lower than 147, and that's why he could go up there and beat up on the Truth for 9 rounds. Canelo would have only needed 4 or 5.
Yeah, no. If Errol would have fought Canelo off inactivity in the length that he took, like he waited like over a whole year to fight Bud Crawford, right? Bud Crawford had a fight in December against old boy David Avanesian. Canelo would have murked Errol Spence.
Hmm.
It would have been 2 rounds, 1 round. It just depends how how charitable Canelo wants to do. He would have.
It would have been 3-punch combination night night.
That's it. Look,
Yeah,
man.
yeah, yeah,
Look, Errol Spence, like
yeah.
Virgil Ortiz, like most of those dudes out of Texas, bro, they're overrated. They're trash.
Oof.
All right, Virgil Ortiz. If we talk about
Wow.
these Texans real quick,
I'm
because
glad you brought up
was a
Virgil right
big
after
fan
that.
of Virgil Ortiz.
Wow.
Virgil Ortiz sucks, man. I'm not like, bro. This dude's already like inactive. All right, his best win is against Antonio Orozco, and probably most of you guys haven't even seen that fight. And
No.
then since then, he moved. He's still fighting 140 pounders. Guys like Maurice Hooker, McKinson. Like, who is Frederick Lawson? Bro, if there was ever like these Texans guys, man, I'm not trying to like, but they just have a big population, right? It's the biggest country in the United States, and they have Texas
States.
pride, and they have a lot of outlets that look out for them and just put them up on this pedestal. All of those dudes from
Mm.
Texas are garbage. They're just not that good. They're
Wow.
just not
Damn.
that good. You ain't
I
saying
know
that.
that's
Hey,
so
No, no
harsh.
disrespect, no disrespect, but only
That's as disrespectful as it
hold on,
gets,
hold on,
I'm
buddy.
hold
making a
on, let me
meme.
clarify. No disrespect to the state of Texas. I'm just talking about their fighters, okay? Hold on.
I'm making a
Hey, hey,
I'm
hey,
making a
Drew,
Just to clarify.
you're
yeah, I'm
making a
making a
meme about
text.
it?
Hold on,
Yep.
just to
Yep.
clarify, okay? I'm not talking
Yep.
about the state of Texas or anything. I'm just talking about the fighters.
Hey,
Jamal,
Drew,
overrated. Jermel,
Drew.
you already know. Errol Spence, you already know. Regis Prograde, you already know.
Hey,
All of
Drew,
those dudes
he,
are horrible,
he
man.
he starts out by saying no disrespect, and everything he says is completely
I
Hold
disrespectful.
on, hold
know.
on, hold on,
Everything.
hold on. Just because I have some family out there in Texas, hold on, hold on, hold on. But what I'm trying to say is this: I'm not dissing all of Texas. I'm just dissing their fighters. Those
Hey, Rick.
fighters, bro, and Virgil Ortiz, they're just not that good. The best one is Oshaki Foster.
Let Drew talk.
Yeah.
No
Let Drew
one is
talk. I think he's
praising
gonna say
Oshaki
something funny.
Foster. So I just want to say that no one is praising Oshaki Foster, but those six
Yeah.
guys that I named, Virgil,
One.
Arrow, both twins, and old cat, I forgot who the other dude, Regis Prograde. I think he's
Mhm.
from New Orleans, but
So
he reps Texas like no. Oh, the best one is
Go,
Oshaki
Drew.
Foster. Go
So
ahead.
like in the amateur circuit, bro, most of these Texas boxers, bro, they're usually like the bigger boys.
Hmm.
They're like because everyone in Texas big, bro. Like
Yeah.
they're usually good at football. But that's what I've noticed. Most of them are all from Tech, like all the bigger boys. They're like the lighter weights. It's kind of rare.
Trent
You
Williams is from Texas. I got
who?
love and respect for him. That's why I got to clarify certain things.
Oh
I
yeah,
got
yeah,
family out there, so I'm not
yeah,
dissing it.
yeah.
I'm just dissing those
Hey,
fighters, man. All right,
Rick,
hold on. And then we're
Rick,
being fair. All those guys are from New York. Okay, Arrow is like born and raised, and I think so were the Charlos. All right,
yeah,
so
yeah. But
like
Rick,
just to
Rick,
clarify,
yeah,
but like
Rick,
I mean, just because I got family out there, so like
yeah.
not
Hey,
make
Rick,
this a whole clip whenever this Texas thing. I'm just saying like these guys, man,
hey,
they
Rick.
got some skills, but like they got more. They're more overrated than anything, man. Just because El Pachuco was keep talking about Virgil Ortiz, and nah, man, you just no
Yeah,
way.
Rick is like, what's so good about dumb old Texas? No, I'm kidding.
Nah. Texas is incredible, but I'm saying is like they just get too much credit, man. Same thing. It's every single year with the
All
Dallas
right,
Cowboys.
what's the best state?
And then they always get beat, and then they're just whatever. What
What's
happened?
the best state? What's the best state right now then?
The best state right now.
Overall, like that's
What
representing
are we talking about here?
damn.
Like just sports, the economy,
Nah, nah, nah. Nah, world champion boxers right now.
I would probably have to give it to I hate to say it, but Nebraska, bro.
What?
Terrence Crawford. Yeah.
Nebraska.
Yeah.
One guy. One guy. What? No,
Name the other
no.
name
You
another state.
yeah,
Name me
like
another state that has the best
like
American
Drew,
fighter right now.
like Drew. Oh, you're just saying one fighter. He's saying who produces the most better fighters right now, and he's trying to insinuate that Texas does. I think that's a very good argument. You're only looking at
I didn't say Texas.
the who?
No, no. If we're talking about, hold on. If we're talking
Wait,
about,
wait, 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 wait. You're the one who asked the question, Drew. So what's
hold
your
on.
answer?
If you're asking who has the most champions, yes, probably Texas, California, and New York. But those happen to be the three most populated states. But they don't have the best fighter.
Yeah.
The best fighter is in Nebraska. I mean, dude,
Oh
this is a guy that I
God.
don't like, Bill Crawford, but I'm
Oh,
not.
yeah. I think
Go
it,
ahead.
man.
We don't got to deviate to this.
No,
Yeah,
no,
that's
hold on. Let me just take back everything I said the last 10 minutes. All right, if Pachuco,
oh, come
he's
on.
saying this. Listen, hold on. Pachuco got me riled up. He goes, according to the homie Ricky, Bud beats Bibbo and Biteria. Listen, man, all I'm saying is this. All I'm
Eat
saying,
crow, buddy. Eat crow.
and he like puts Virgil on like, listen. If Virgil were to fight Bud Crawford, you would cry, bro.
Ooh.
What Virgil, how he would look against Bud Crawford,
Oh, my mess.
damn, dude. He would like Virgil would get utterly destroyed. Okay, right now in this time and place, Errol Spence versus Virgil Ortiz would be a 50-50 fight. One dude is trying to, get his body in order. Well, actually, both dudes are trying to get their body in order. And I'm not trying to be
Ooh.
like overly like angry or mean or anything, but Ortiz, I don't even know if he can make any weight like healthy. Okay. The dude's passing out every single time he, hops into the hyperbolic chamber. Errol Spence, like man, like if he sneezes, his teeth are gonna fall out. So like, what are we
Ooh.
talking about here?
Okay. Actually, let me press you on something, homie. Now that you brought it up, it's Virgil Ortiz Jr. Prime.
As of right now, is Virgil Ortiz prime? Absolutely not, man.
Okay.
He's
Let's
actually,
go back. Let's
what are we
go
talking
back.
about here, bro?
Let's go back. I just want to acknowledge that the direction that the live is going has to do with the
The
influence
comments, man.
of
The
our.
comments are
Yes, exactly. They're incredible. Look,
yeah, maybe I'm
truly,
getting pissed off
Trey.
now, bro.
That truly,
None of that
Trey.
happened, bro.
Look, I'm gonna read a couple of truly Trace and boxing magics and also boxing with Frank, right? With Frank Bay. Truly Trey goes on and reminds us that this would be obviously about Terence Bud Crawford. He gained 600 IG followers after beating Spence. Spence, although not a household name, was much more popular than Bud Crawford leading up to the fight. And all I can think about is this. I wonder how many of those 600,000 IG followers were followers that liked Errol Spence, but then all of a sudden just turned their back on him and went for the Johnny Come Lately.
Many,
Continuing on, I'm sure. Continuing on, Boxing Magic Max side, good even fall to you, sir. He states Crawford hasn't even fought Thurman. One time, PBC is trash, that's for sure. PBC is so bad they can't keep a network. And he has that Wi-Fi sign right there. And Top Rank Matchroom and Golden Boy is where it's at. I agree. El Pachuco reminds us that that torn glove debacle was a major irregularity when Terence Bud Crawford beat Avanesian. It definitely was. I think it was not made as big of a deal as it could have been, as it likely should have been, because even as he reminds us, the brand of those gloves, Everlast, had to come out and write a statement. And I think here's the thing about it. Even though that in and of itself was a controversy, I also find it incredible. I know this is going to tick off Pachuco, but that as soon as the third man in the ring told Terence Bud Crawford after this round, you're taking off those gloves. As soon as they told him that, he went over there and stopped Abenisian in 10 seconds. Incredible. Boxing with Frank states that homie Ricky lost that round 10-8, and in fact, I was going back and forth with boxing with Frank Bay because he was supporting my argument much more better and reasonably than I was, because he's obviously a sharper minded individual than myself, and he reminds us that prime is relative. I agree. Every fighter has a different clock and wear and tear. Some primes could be before 25, and then some hit the prime at 30 plus. In sports archives, I just want to acknowledge that you did mention the comment here, and he states that Floyd lost that fight too. He sends little laughy guy with tears by his cheeks, and a good even fall to you. So those were just a couple of the messages that I wanted to read. Frank Bay has incredible supporting statements with my idea that it is actually relative. In fact, he's the one to put it better than me. It is relative. That's all I was trying to say. And although it took me 30 minutes of screaming back and forth with with the veins of my forehead protruding, he just said the perfect word. Thank you very much, Frank Bay.
Yo, why'd you guys all unmic yourself? I'm doing something real quick. You guys gotta keep it rolling.
Okay. Well, Drew, I read a couple of the messages. You've been going back and forth with a couple of our listeners. Do you want to address any of them? Because if not, I'm just going to go over here and read a couple of Pachucos as he's digging into homie Ricky's ill logic. Here's a couple of them, I guess. El Pachuco states another example is Canelo getting criticized for fighting an old, quote unquote, old Triple G. But Canelo had more professional fights than Triple G when they fought. Canelo had more wear and tear. Mhm. That is true. And would anybody say really that although Canelo had more wear and tear, he fought an older Triple G who was obviously much fresher and experienced? That he have wear and tear, and would that mean that Canelo was no longer prime? I don't know. If Canelo was in prime when he fought Canelo, then that's very surprising to me because I thought he did quite well fighting that one of the best 160 fighters in recent milieu. So I think that's a very good point right there. Maybe something that we should address. And here is another comment. I guess going back to what we were talking about how Crawford changed as an individual from a very boring individual with lacking much character or not character, I would say, but maybe much of a personality. He states that Crawford harasses people on social media claiming that he is the best fighter. Canelo and
Rick.
Inouye
Oh
don't
shit,
even
my bad.
mention it. Let the fans decide. The
I
true
thought I was muted
best
right now.
the true best fighters move in silence. Yeah,
Uh,
I agree with that. Drew?
Rick, yeah, no. Rick said Chris Eubank fights out of Nebraska now. Don't Shakur and Keyshawn train with Bomac. Oh my goodness, Rick. God, bro, bro. We're talking
Oh
about
man.
born and raised, bro.
Yeah,
Bro,
like
get out your feelings, bro. I'm just kidding.
I know, man.
But
I know. I'm joking, man. Dang, dude.
no, I'm just
Trying
kidding.
to recollect my senses here. I'm getting
But
messed up.
yeah, no, it's of course it's gonna be the most populated states. I think that was a good subject to start on, but you know, yeah, no, we should have put more thought into that one. But yeah, no,
yeah.
it's
No,
because you can name people like that are from these smaller states, and you don't really don't know what to consider them, I guess. But definitely like East Coast fighters, there's I guess no,
I
there's
think
just about the
Ohio.
same. Yeah,
Ohio has
Ohio, that's
the
right,
most
Ohio.
legendary fighters.
Yeah, Ohio, not too much Detroit, but they got Tommy Hearns and they're kind of growing. They got Clarissa and
Detroit
shit,
has
but
also amazing fighters too. They got obviously the Floyd Mayweather,
hmm
um, Clarissa Shields. Oh, bro, Detroit's up there.
yeah, they're
yeah.
up there.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah,
One, two things that I found very interesting in some of our comments. Frank Bay, he puts it very concisely. He states the current state of boxing is top level talent is sitting longer and longer, having more injuries. Combined with giant purses and compared to past generations, the definition of prime has changed. Yeah, I think exactly another evidence for how prime as a concept is something quite relative. And there was one right here that truly Trey stated, and I find it to be interesting. And I just want to ask you guys on this one, right? Because he reminds us that whenever Canelo signed a three-fight deal with the PBC, that's when it really started being mentioned that he would fight Spence. Now, I wanted to remind you. I'm not too sure if you guys heard about this, right? But Subriel Matthias has jumped ship. He's left the PBC, and he is now over there at Matchroom, at least for the time being. I'm not too sure how long his tenure is, how long his contract is, but I know that the rumors of him moving over to that network took place about almost 2 months ago, when he was in when I think Eddie Hearn had a fight in Las Vegas, uh, and he brought along a lot of his UK fighters, including Joe Cordina and a lot of his crew. And lo and behold, he held this event where he invited people to have a marathon, a 5K marathon with Matchroom. And some other fighters. So there was a bunch of people that went, young kids and everybody who just had an interest, who took the day off to run this 5K marathon with Mr. Eddie Hearn and a lot of these fighters. And there was Matthias, and Matthias was with them. And of course, when you see Subriel Matthias there running alongside matchroom fighters, and you're thinking, what's that about? And then, interestingly enough, they interviewed Matthias, and he starts talking quite friendly. All of a sudden, he signs on to Matchroom. Now, he was most recently asked what his plan was with Matchroom, and he said that Eddie Hearn, he had provided him some very good, intriguing options for fights. And he mentioned that the PBC had offered him a couple of fights for the near future on the Amazon network. And the strange thing about the offerings was they included, I think, Mario Barrios and Boots Ennis. Mind you, guys, those guys are 147-pound fighters. And I think maybe the other guy was Stanionis, but they're 147-pound fighters. And one of the critiques that I have of Subriel Matthias is that he seems to be getting a lot of credit for the lack of accomplishment and of notable fighters that he's fought in. Yes, I'm not trying to discredit the record of his past six fights. Those fighters that, for the most part, were undefeated. One
We
guy only
talked
had
about that
lost
yesterday.
twice. Yes, but what I'm trying to say is Subriel Matthias at 140 has so much work to do to build his name up, and especially his credibility in the eyes of fans like myself. We know he's a killer. We know he's a knockout artist. We know that, and he looks to be the goods. But as far as his resume, right, he lacks in comparison to men like Josh Taylor, Teofimo Lopez. You might even say Sandor Martin. You might even say Devin Haney, right? Regis Progra. He lacks in comparison to them. Even Ramirez. So, why would the PBC move Subriel Matthias up a weight class? And I have to ask this question right here because he reminds us
Excuse
that
me.
the fight of Spence and Canelo was one of the rumors under that three-fight deal. And I have to just ask you guys, does the PBC lack imagination, or is the PBC working only off of that of imagination, or does the PBC not know how to properly matchmake?
Nah, they know how to properly matchmake. They've done genius things with Tank Davis. I
That's
don't
one
really
fighter.
agree with it, but they've done a great thing. They also did a great job matchmaking Jermel Charlo to become undisputed. Took a while, but they got it done. Now they know what they're doing. It's just they don't want to play ball with everybody else. They're very you know, like exclusive. They exclude everybody else in it as well. I don't know, man. It's pretty interesting stuff how they operate. I wouldn't operate that way, but PBC, they know what they're doing. The bad side about it is they keep their fighters very inactive. You know what I mean? That's the downfall.
Yeah, no, they try to cash in on all their fighters, as much as they can on like on a singular fight. But they try to like position them to like obviously become bigger stars. But yeah, I'm not one of those like network gangbangers. Like I'm not like I don't feel no ways about like these networks. I just, if anything, I'm barely like getting educated on all this shit, you know. So it's like before I didn't, I just knew I was watching boxing, you know. So then, and I'm talking like 3 years, you know. So 2 3 years of me being educated in this shit. So yeah,
Yeah,
man.
no, I mean, to me, I don't really care too much about the networks either. All along is like, look, bro, and this is how it's always been with my take on boxing. It's like you just got to work together. If you guys work together, you're gonna build something amazing. But the fact that there's these things, I gotta cross over this side of the street, network hustlers, and then all of these things that you have to go about circumventing to make the fights not happen. That's what's killing the sport, and just inactivity. If anything,
Hmm.
inactivity. If you don't want to play ball with Top Rank or DAZN, all right, cool, cool. It's a competition. I get that. So just keep your fighters
Hmm.
active. Jamal has to be fighting 3 times a year. Same thing with Jamel. Now I know they're going through some litigation issues, or I don't know exactly what it is. Keep them active. Same thing with David. Same thing with Demetrius Andrade and Rashidi Ellis. Okay, they took a loss, big deal. They went tomorrow and they're back on the world. David Moreau. Keep all of these fighters active. I don't know who has Andy Ruiz, but I've never heard of him anymore. Got to keep these dudes active. Got to keep it pushing, because if you keep them all inactive, by the time you want to make a mega fight, they're gonna be a former shell of themselves. Okay.
Mhm.
Look at Bivol, him chasing a mega fight, right? He hasn't fought well in terms of that Lyndon Arthur fight. Bivol is a very active fighter, give or take. He fights damn near 3 times a year, right? Then all of a
Not
sudden
this
he
year.
wants to get a big fight, and the big
Oh,
fights don't
that's
happen,
yeah.
and he has to succumb to one fight versus Lyndon Arthur, or whatever the case the gentleman's name is. I don't mean to butcher it. I apologize. You get what I'm saying? So that's what happens. Sometimes chasing the big fights makes you very inactive, and you gotta just
Hmm.
stay busy. We just talked about Shakur the other day. Dude has a lot of talent. Okay, he had 2 bad nights of a career, right? Jeremiah Nakatalia and old boy Edwin de los Santos. All right, so then rematch Edwin. And if you can beat Edwin by impressive fashion, another 12 more rounds, then do it. Do it concrete. The biggest downfall of boxing, besides the lack of structure, besides the lack of just continuity and some solidarity, inactivity. All these
Hmm.
things, man. I'm not even gonna lie to you. Canelo fighting 2 times, 3 times a year, it's really nice in terms of how big of the name that he is. But most fighters, they should be fighting 4 or 5 times a year. The
Yeah.
legends
No.
past years, right? Sugar Ray Leonard, Sugar Ray Robinson, Max Baird, all these dudes fought almost like 10 times a year.
Mhm. Yeah,
Yeah, and I think it's
Like, what
like
happened?
I don't. I
well,
think
they
what
pay
happened is
less.
no, they paid. I think it's the opposite. I
That's a
think they
very
ended
good
up. Oh,
point. But let me put it to you like this. Let me put it to you like this. Would you rather fight 1 time a year and get paid 20 million, or fight 5 times a year and get paid 45 million? If each fight was just $8 million per fight, would you rather try to make 40 million, or would you rather have just one big fight for 20?
Don King.
yeah. No, I think I'd rather have the one like. Wait, say it again. I think it was the first option. I
Either
want the like.
you get 5 fights for 40 million. That means 5 fights a year, or
Yeah.
8 million per year,
Uh
or
huh.
just one mega fight and you get paid 25 million. Let's just say.
Jeez.
I would take the one fight for 20 million and then
Yeah.
build
Why?
up.
No, no,
Why?
no. You take the fight for 40
No,
God,
because
no.
that's your
man.
What
job,
if
Drew.
you're having 5 or 8 fights for 40 million?
But see, I have two different feels because I have I have a fighter's state of mind, and then I have a fan state of
Yeah.
mind. You know, so as a fan, I want to see more fights, and then as a fighter, why would I want to take more punishment for for and then I'm gonna just take more for less punishment, less rounds. So I
No.
think
Right.
it's a racial thing. you
Absolutely.
know.
But when we look at, okay, I understand what you. It's tough, because you're both right in any aspect that you choose. If you want to have one fight and preserve yourself for 20, whoa, Drew dropped off. One fight for 25 million, that's understandable. You're only making $15 million, but you have to do 7 times the work, right?
Mhm.
Hmm.
This goes 5 fights to stay sharp. I mean, that's the way I look at it. But from a boxing
I would.
aspect, right? If we look at every other sport, Every other sport, they have like 10 games, like basketball right now. There's probably 10 games that happen tonight, right? And there's 82 games per team. Hockey, same thing. Football and baseball, 16 games on a Sunday night, right? For 5 months. Um, Baseball, over 162. There's activity going on. Boxing needs to have either you're gonna fight year round or there's gonna have to be a season where it's like boom, 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 boom,
Yeah,
and you're just gonna
they're
have to
gonna
take it over.
they're gonna have to like
That's
mandate
the
them to
biggest
fight
problem.
more.
Just activity, man. It's just like I know
And
injuries happen. You know, if you're injured, bro, take time. Like this is a tough sport. You know, you can injure your fist, you can hit the bag, and your bag gets sucked in, and you just messed up your elbow. You overextended your elbow. It's a nerve pinch issue. I get it. You can mess up your rotator cuff throwing bombs and sparring. You can suffer a clash of headbutts or a busted nose. I get this. You know what I mean? And the sports are tough. But there's sometimes where, like, at least from where I stand, I don't really need to see Canelo fight 10 times a year against top 10 fighters. But if he were to fight, I don't know, 10 times a year, you know, try to average one fight a month, but he's fighting maybe two, three legitimate threats, but the other ones are guys like rated in 150 and he just knocks them out in 4 rounds, I'm cool with that too. Like, you're sparring the same quality opponents anyway. You're probably
yeah, like do
sparring
it for the.
over 100 and something rounds in preparation for one fight. That's
Yeah,
where
I
the
see what you
injuries are
mean.
coming from.
Like he's clocking in. Like you know how like you're expecting him to fight every last Friday of the month or some shit. Like oh, it's Canelo's on. You know, like imagine saying that, like, oh, Canelo's on right now, like it's the last Friday, he's fighting. It's the last Friday of the month. You know, like imagine being that consistent. You're almost like a Steve Harvey show. Like people are gonna want to tune in because you're that consistent. You know, and yeah, I'm not saying like that consistent, but I'm saying like, like more times just do it for the fun. Do it for us.
Yeah.
And
You know
Well,
what?
it's not so much
Yeah.
the fun. It's just like, all right, for example, Julie, let's say you go to the gym and you spar Tuesdays and Thursdays, right? Sometimes you're gonna spar some killers. Other times you're gonna, it's just drills. Maybe it's just working on defense. Maybe, you're sparring, a mom, and the mom is just teeing off you, and you just gotta block and circle around just because it's, light sparring or a different type of sparring. Sometimes you're sparring national champs. Why don't you just fight instead?
Yeah.
but
Let
Probably
me read it.
Canelo,
more
you're
cautious.
saying, but are you saying like that level though for Canelo, like a mess
No, no,
around
no,
thing?
no, no. I clarified that. Let's say he has two fights. Let's say if Canelo were to have his Super Bowl weekends, and that's, one week in May and the other one is in September. But besides just fighting two times a year, he has 5, 6 filler fights throughout the year. For a total of 8 fights. And those 6 filler fights are guys rated, I don't know, in the top
What level?
100. Let's say he fights the
Oh,
99th
okay.
rated fighter. You know what I mean?
That yeah. That's what I was asking. I was like,
Yeah.
okay.
Okay, guys. Are you guys ready for a comedy break?
Go for it, man. Go for it.
Okay, okay. On the count, on at the cost of homie Ricky, Pachuco's just been digging on that man right there, and
Is he still going at it, man?
no, no, no. He was reading a little while back, but we never got to address him. I just think for the effect of comedy, I think it's worthwhile. And Pachuco tells us, right, that that according to homie Ricky, Bud beats Bivol and better be on the same night. he continues to
Uh,
state at homie Ricky, if you want, let's put money on that. Virgil versus Bud if it happens. Right?
It's not gonna
And
happen, but I'll take you on that bet, bro.
yep, in a
If he
yeah,
doesn't
no,
want to fight Boots Ennis, why would he fight Virgil Ortiz? You know?
he continues digging on the homie Ricky, and he states the homie Ricky quote. Bud taught Bruce Lee the one finger death punch, and he wasn't even born yet. Yeah, that was Sevenician's cue to
Uh,
lay down. The check had already cleared. I guess he's talking about
That about
how
Bud
the
Crawford, dude.
yeah yeah the Bud Crawford and the finger thing. And of course Pachuco ends it by saying. The homie Ricky still mad at Virgil for not giving him an autograph. But come on, Ricky. Virgil was taking the leak. Let him be. Homie Ricky, did you approach Virgil Ortiz when he was taking the leak for an autograph? I mean, if he had something in his hand, he's gonna write with that thing, buddy.
Oh, man. Keep going. Keep going.
Oh
Keep
man,
reading.
man.
That would be mad
Okay,
uncomfortable. Imagine.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Man,
Keep
I
reading.
do. He continue. He goes on and says, "Well, in fact, I guess he addresses that he himself is from the great state of Texas. Likewise, truly, Trey is the Lone Star State. I work with a lot of people from that state. I'll expound on that in a little bit. But let's see what else these gentlemen have to say to dig in on the homie Ricky. Pachuco. No, I think that was the last. Oh,
No,
wait.
the last
Here's the
one.
last one. The homie Ricky is mad that he had his heart broken by a girl from Texas. That was 20 years ago, man. Let it go. And in fact, in Pachuco, I know homie Ricky doesn't like to talk about it, but do you want to say that? Do you want to answer that question there, Ricky? A girl from Texas. Do you have anything to say about
Yeah, yeah, man. My girl is actually from Texas, so
that?
you know, that's why I was like, "Yo, bro, I'll take it back, man. Take it
And he
back.
brought
I'm gonna
and
start a
Pachuco.
war at
He
home, man."
he went all the way over there to the Lone Star State. He went to the Lone Star State and he brought over here to the Golden State of California. And ladies and gentlemen, I invite you to come over here to our grand state. It really is beautiful. We don't discriminate. We don't look at your license plate and we says,
It
"Oh,
depends.
those guys from Texas." Blah, blah, blah. But
Huh.
I hear that you guys are very rude to Californios. So I'm not too sure if you guys would welcome us with open arms if we went over there, but I assure you that over here in California, at least we don't really you hold people or treat them negatively just because their license plate is from another state. It really is a nice place over here. I would just say stay away from the big cities like some parts of Los Angeles and San Francisco, but everything up and down
Stay
past
right.
that, you're good.
Nah, man.
Stay
I
right.
just feel like if you go to certain parts of California, you're not gonna really
Oakland.
get checked on certain things. It's just more like of the gang things. That's really pretty much the only thing, and that's mostly like down south. Up north,
Well,
more
Oakland.
like a melting pot, so it's more like diverse, which is pretty cool.
Oakland's depends, but you
Yeah,
just depends
Oakland
where.
can be pretty
You
grimy.
can you can smell it literally. You can be like, damn,
I think the
there's a lot of
biggest thing that in Texas, like for me, that took me a while to get was the traffic lights. Ours
they're
are
different.
vertical in California. Ours are vertical, and in Texas, they were like left to right. So that was
Mm.
that was pretty weird. I was like, huh,
Horizontally.
yeah,
Yeah, man.
And just to answer that question about the fighters, these are the opinions of our listeners about what would they take: one fight for 20 mil or four fights for a total of 50 or so. Truly, Trey, at least he's honest, and he says because he says that he's a fighter from the Lone Star State. He's been a fighter before, so he says that he respects all of these fighters, like the Terrence, Bud, no, Spence and the Charlos, and then of course Jackie Foster and all of these fighters from that great state. And he also harkens back to the past. He says Foreman, Donald Curry, aka the Texas Cobra, Jack Johnson. So he goes on to defend the greatness of the productivity of Texas for creating fighters. And yeah, it's a tough and rugged, manly state. That one of the great state of Texas. I work with a lot of these people. They really are hardworking, very respectable individuals, and it is true what they say. Don't mess with Texas. If you understand that, Logan, you'll get by that state and its people quite well. But these gentlemen state, and I wouldn't doubt it. Truly, Trey states personally, I'd choose the one fight. Mr. Vince Vargas says fight fights because you get paid and you stay sharp. Yep, I agreed with that. Trudy Trey expounds on his opinion and states as a fighter, I wouldn't want more than 3 fights a year, especially if I'm a champion. Mr. Vargas expounds on his ideations and he states that fighting one fight a year would already be considered inactive, and of course, likely hinting at the fact that that would start to lay in that ring rust. And of course, truly, Trey reminds us a training camp would be, at least in modern days, truly Trey, between 8 to 16 weeks. When in the past it would have been much shorter than that. But the bigger the status of the check, the less you'd be inclined to fight. Yep, I agree with that. And just to expound on that idea of personality, here's the thing, guys. Um, I have contracts, with different companies all over the world in different places. That's how I know, people from the island of Puerto Rico, from Florida, how I deal with people from Texas. And when I started with this company that I've been doing varied work for, I started closer to 20 years now. And I used to tuck in my shirt and I used to wax my shoes, crease up my pants,
Man, stop.
and comb my hair. Yes, I did. I actually did. Really, I swear to God, I used to look dapper when going over here. But the more I started to
You
work for this
lying, dude.
company, the more I started to work for this company, and I started to gain the respect and their trust, I became more lax. I started to wear jeans. Why? Because no longer was the reputation that I had created dependent on my looks. It was on my work itself and my productivity. So I started to gather little mm, perks in the company, right? And one of the things that I prefer is to wear my jeans, and I like to wear my jeans. In fact, I have about 30 pairs of jeans. I only wear the same pair of jeans. They're ripped and tatered in some spots, and I
And
would
he'll
go
spray them. He'll
and I
spray
would
them with paint.
He's a
wait.
lie.
That was in my drug years. Get out of here. And I would wear
I
these
didn't know.
pants to my company. And yes, you're right. And during my drug years, I had silver
I didn't know that.
colored. I had silver colored pants. Of course, you know that. You know
Well,
my
I knew
silver colored
that.
pants. Okay, I would take those pants to the company, and this was about, I don't
What?
know, 10 years or so now. Now,
Damn.
now here's the thing, guys. I walk around in a robe similar to the one that the Big Lebowski was wearing in his movie, right? What I'm trying to tell you is that I agree to some extent what Trudy Trey is saying. Once you reach a level of accomplishment, you're not gonna necessarily take on more fights because you've already deserved the respect. You've already gained the respect, and you've worked hard to get there. And now you're gonna ask for the most money and find any ways to take and make your life much easier and comfortable for you. But when you're young and trying to prove yourself, you can't afford those luxuries. So somewhere in between the opinions of Truly Trey and Mr. Vince Vargas is the happy medium that can make a boxer's career great and the fans appreciative. I think if we mix both of those together, the sport will be well.
Yeah, for sure. It's always good to have a combination. Either you do
Oh,
one or the other, but I feel like you do it into extremities. Like for example,
why did you guys release? Why did you guys tell Mr. Vince Vargas that I wear skinny jeans?
you said it yourself. Nah,
I
but
said they were ripped. I
the way
said they were ripped.
it's like if you're, I think 3 months of preparation is too long for a boxing match. I just think that's a really long time. If you watch enough footage, right? If you watch enough footage, you only really need a week or two to prepare a game plan. That's it.
And stay in weight. That's it, really, right?
That's the reason why. That's the only reason why a fighter needs more than a month or two for a fight is just to lose weight. Because if
Right.
we really come down to the nitty gritty, that these fighters are um, basically cheating the system. They're finding ways to be weight bullies, and that's the only reason why they need 2 or 8
Right.
weeks to prepare. Because if you live that lifestyle, you're always in shape. You're always
Yeah.
running, not because
But
you need to, but because you fucking want to. It feels good.
mhm,
You got the
yeah.
endorphins pumping. You just want to be strong, and it feels good. You get the runner's high, and that just becomes your everyday situation. So I just feel like a lot of these fighters do themselves and they shoot themselves on the foot by asking for such long training camps. I don't know
If
where.
they were,
If we look
if
back,
they
it
go
was
ahead.
Henry Armstrong. There was one fighter that held 3 belts at 3 different weight classes, from like 126, 130, or 135 and 147, something like that. Right? I forgot exactly what the name of that fighter was. Right? Maybe you guys
Henry
in the
Armstrong.
comments.
Henry Armstrong.
Possibly, I think I might have mentioned his
I'll
name.
look at it right now.
But there was a fighter that held three belts at once, right? And how could he fight from like 126, 135, and 147? Because he's
Yeah, man.
probably
You're
walking around 144, or his skills were that supreme. And the reality is, like, I don't need that long of time to like lose weight all crazy to fight in between three weight classes. You really don't need that much. Damn, bro, what the fuck's going on with this runny nose? You don't
yeah,
need
man.
that much time for preparation because look, man, boxing is a tough sport, but it's also a simple one. It's not like this is science, guys. There's three punches that you have to defend: straights, hooks, and uppercuts. That's it. And either the guy comes forward or the guy circles around. That's it. Or he decides to counterpunch or be ultra aggressive. And then
Mhm.
once you just watch enough tape, that's it. Because the guy can he make adjustments? Sure. But guess what? So can you. That this
Yeah.
the fact that some dudes need 4 months, 3 months, even 2 months,
Shows.
it's crazy.
Yeah, it shows how
Stop
much
being a
out of
weight
shape they get.
bully like Jermaine Ortiz.
Yeah.
Stop trying to be a weight bully and needing 6 months. If you walk around 155, fight at 154. You don't have to go fight a Jermel Charlo or Tim Su, a top fighter every single time. Just keep being
So I
active.
was I was gonna go to what Trey said. He said, "So how long does a fighter need to recover?"
Yeah.
It
And
Wow.
that's
depends
what it
how
is
brutal
too.
the fight became.
Yep. So, but what
So
if
it
that's the
depends. A lot of
variable,
these
right?
things are all circumstantial, so it really depends. But
Yeah,
like for example, when I
that's
was
the
competing,
variable.
when I was competing, they wanted me to fight like south of 130, right? But I can bang with dudes 135, 140, 147. I would fight guys up to 168 because the skills were there, you know. So at the same time, it's just like you can spar or maybe not necessarily fight all those dudes because that's a big weight disparity, because at the end of the day, like I respect weight classes. Weight classes do matter, you know. It just happens. But at the end of the day, like just be active, man. Just be active.
Yeah.
But
Wow.
that's
You,
if you
I
want
don't
to
know if
stay
I said
active.
enough, but say again.
But if I feel like if you want to stay active, all the stars also gotta align as well. Like you gotta also make it a fight to where you can actually come out safe and actually not take no cuts, not take no like really like broken like ribs. You can't take none of that, or else it's gonna prolong the recovery and all that. So like you gotta like not only stay active but damn, but not stay
Yeah, no.
consistent. But I don't think you can if you want to stay as active as you're saying, like I don't know what, like 6 fights a year. I think sparring is not like a good idea, like not as much at least, or what do you think about that? Like I don't think sparring is actually kind of like smart, like maybe like just one hard session, in between the camps. But I mean, you're fighting so goddamn much, man. Like I don't think extra punishment is necessary during the camps. It's just like you said, just for like losing the weight and stuff like that. But the recovery, man, the recovery process, it can really damage a person's career, bro. And I feel like some people, some fighters just don't know how to protect themselves properly, and they end up taking all these hits, and it literally prolonging or literally shortening the career by one fight every single time they get knocked out. Like when they get knocked out, I mean that's like it's some serious shit, and you should start to like you should look better in the ring after you get knocked out, or else you should obviously think about hanging them up. But um, some fighters can't protect themselves for shit, and sometimes it's just it's not healthy for a fighter to continue to fight that way. I think the only type of fighter that deserves to fight that much is a very defensive fighter, and and a fighter who doesn't take that much punishment, obviously. Because
mhm.
like I said yesterday, you get knocked out, there's a couple weeks you get postponed, so shit like that. You
You
gotta.
know, I just looked at the record of Mr. Harry Armstrong that Truly Trey reminds us of. He had 181 recorded fights, 151 one clean and fair, like 130 by knockout, 21 losses and 9 draws. So when you look at that career, obviously, obviously the you have to understand that he was just fighting once every 2 weeks, right? So he was likely not taking much punishment because, like you guys addressed, there would have been no way for him to be so active if he was really being tattered and weathered and beaten down with every single fight. So I'm sure that his record is padded to some extent, probably taking on fighters that weren't as skillful, maybe just barroom fighters and anything just for the fact of taking some money, right? Somebody back in the days, these brave men would just say, "Hey, you ain't nothing." After a couple of drinks, I'll beat you up. Okay, I'll take you on. And then they would go over there and just face each other off. There's no way that Harry Armstrong fought 181 killers, right? But nonetheless, like homie Ricky is alluding to, you don't have to fight every single killer. You don't have to fight other champions. You don't have to necessarily unify or fight for undisputed. You can just fight the next guy over and be active. And
But
once in a
there's
while, you're gonna fight good ones, bad ones, championship level fights. But if you just keep being productive, you become a crowd pleaser, a fan favorite, and somebody that you'll never have to say, "Hey, I lost because of ring rust. I lost because I forgot or how to move about in the sport." I think Henry Armstrong is one of those
I'm a
incredible fighters that you can never reproduce unless you take some soft touches here and there.
I'm gonna state the obvious and say that the times were a little different back then, and they didn't have the weights, they didn't have the proper um gloves, for your fists, and they did a lot of scrutiny back in the day. Um, Especially since no one can really like prove it. There's no cameras around and shit like that. There's a lot more scrutiny back in the day, bro. Especially with fights. You don't know. Like I heard some fights back in the day. They used to actually cheat to actually win some bets. And they would actually fill up like their shit with like rocks, like back or like yeah, like rocks and shit like that back in the day, like straight up cheat back in the day, dude. And on some like white supremacist shit, bro. Like they used to do a lot of that stuff, a lot of scrutiny. But
Oh, you
so
mean lack of scrutiny? You mean chicanery, but lack of scrutiny. Scrutiny means oversight. So I think you mean like
yeah, yeah, yeah,
lack of scrutiny.
yeah, just stuff like that, like um, but yeah, that it was a lot more possible for him to do it. Um, Henry Armstrong was different though. Like he was actually, what I'm thinking about was Jack Dempsey. Jack Dempsey was like one of those dudes that fought all the way up to like heavyweight. But Henry Armstrong, he fought, I think he fought like in the 40s, right? 30s or 40s or something like that. I might be wrong,
Mhm.
but yeah, I know it was a lot, possible. Also, less fighters back in the day, so
Mhm.
he was one of very few fighting and doing it at a certain level. Of course, yeah. You hear shit like that, or Salvador Sanchez. I keep saying his name, but he's really one of the few guys that moved up so crazy in weight. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, no, that's one of those guys that can, Henry Armstrong, man. He needs to be oh, I'm pretty sure all the greats already been knowing about him. Pretty sure Muhammad Ali grew up knowing about this man. But yeah, man. What are your thoughts on that?
Mm, yeah. I just think that we will never see fighters like that ever again. Um, you
Because they
know,
have too many protocols, too much shit in the middle. Like people don't. It's hard to for people to like get to cheat nowadays. Nowadays, it's a fair playing field unless you're. Nah, never mind. I was gonna go with Tank, but never mind.
yeah. No. One of the things that right now, El Pachuco stated, saludos a mis hermanos de California, mi ciudad favorita es San Diego. La gente de Califas que yo personalmente he conocido son buenas personas. And to those English speaking individuals that do not understand what that El Pachuco is stating. I'm sure that Trudy Trey, if he is not Hispanic, I'm sure he knows what I just read out in Spanish because he lives in Texas. And if you're from Texas, for the most part, you're going to speak Spanish. Um, but that basically means salutations to my brethren of the state of California. My favorite city is San Diego. The people of Califas, or that's the nickname for California, that I've personally met have been a good folk. And yeah, I just had to throw it up there that I have worked with people, and even to this day, from the great state of Texas, and I was, helping people out through the natural disasters because that's one of the contracts that I take. Can't really elaborate, but it is a very important part of my career to involve myself in natural disasters. I had an opportunity to work with people, the fine folks of Texas, more towards the region of Houston. And I do say Houston, not Houston. I don't give out a hard H. It is Houston, like the folks of old. They said it like that back in the day. I know that because I've worked with enough of them to notice that the older folks say Houston, but I was helping a lot of these folks that suffered through Hurricane Harvey, inundations, flooding, massive destruction of property, and a couple of years right after that, this incredible freeze that came about, and it just basically burst a lot of pipes, and there was a lot of you know um, homes that needed to be remodeled, demolished, and that's the kind of work that I did. And maybe one day, guys, maybe one day I'll tell you about one of the most incredible experiences that I had helping in Hurricane Maria, the island of Puerto Rico, back in 2017, if I'm not mistaken. Um, I have some stories to tell. And I could tell you a couple of things right off the bat. It'll be short, but I can walk into one of the most famous gyms in the island of Puerto Rico, Toa Baja, and I can be welcomed there and get a personal trainer that worked with none other than Tito Trinidad, and I could go over there and just crack a couple of cold ones and start talking to them because I help those people out. But the greatest experience, and I don't want to say no names because I know that that homie Ricky would probably say, "Why are you throwing personal stuff out there?" But I will tell you this, just a hint: Subriel Matthias is not the only Matthias in the island of Puerto Rico, and I spoke to one of the Matthiases. If you guys want to do some quick research, Google and find out who a famous Matthias is. And this person told me the story of the upbringing of one of the best fighters in Puerto Rico, one of the most unique fighters in the history of the sport, alongside,
What's
let's
his
say,
name?
Maromero Paez. I won't say the name. I'm leaving clues there because of certain, obligations for me to keep things under wraps. But there is some Matthias.
I'm talking
That's a
about the
hint.
greatest Puerto Rican ever. One of the greatest Puerto Rican boxers ever. I can't say his name though. Like
If you know your history,
well, now I'm gonna
you'll
just
know who
go
I'm
with
referring to.
Ricky. I'm gonna just to go with Ricky was sitting right here. Uh, Ricky, Drew, who's winning, Chiefs or Niners? I need the real script. No need for crazy twists. Man, honestly, honestly, I'm a little like nervous, right? I'm so nervous. I'm kind of working against my emotions, and I kind of want to bet on the Chiefs, right? But just man, we look a lot better than we did on paper. As far as like our offense, fucker says everything but the name. I know,
Oh,
right? Yeah,
Drew,
no, don't
we
even get it started. Hold on,
no, no, no,
let me
Drew,
get
we
done with
don't
this. Let
say
me get
bad
done with
words
this.
here.
Oh, well, well, I just
He
said it.
wrote it. He wrote it. He didn't say
Well, I just said it.
it. All right, keep going, man.
Okay, we're not gonna get Nah, this guy cussed before. What are we talking about? But yeah, no, yeah, Peace out, Trey. Uh, thanks for coming on, bro.
Yes, sir.
Peace,
Thank you very
peace out,
much.
peace out, gentlemen. And Chiefs 30, 37, 34. Yeah, dude, it's gonna be
Wow.
a close game,
Yeah,
but
that might be real.
defensively, I think
Peace
we're
out, Truly
okay.
Trey.
Yeah, defensively, the Niners are okay. Or okay, we're not great. We're not as great as the 2019. It's just that we're built differently. I think our secondary is a lot better compared to 2019. But our front, I mean, our front is really just missing two two linemen and one interior and one edge. And that edge rusher isn't playing anymore, but man, that dude was giving us some pressure, man. And I just feel like Mahomes can work around it, but our secondary is a lot better. I feel like, but they Mahomes can still play with them. Like he just because he's not at wide receiver, he can still mess with their eyes. And I feel like our rookies are really like young, like they're suckers kind of in a sense where they're not veterans and they haven't seen it all yet. And they haven't played with well they actually have played against Mahomes, but I think just once. And in that one time they got dominated. And it was like, fuck. Like I thought we were good, man. They dominated us when we only had one loss or zero losses. And it was like,
Mm.
fuck. It was really like demoralizing. And he beat a team that I was even more unconfident going up against if we played them in the Super Bowl and in the
Mm.
Ravens. If we played
Mm.
the Ravens, I was like, I'm betting on the Ravens just to work with my emotions because man, I've been waiting this all my life. I'm gonna at least win some money out of this, and 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 the Ravens were good like that, man. I was nervous and I was like, okay, this kind of gives us a better chance. When I seen the Chiefs beat the Ravens, Ravens had the best defense. I was really scared of them, and Mahomes just did that. I was like, fuck. Like I'm kind of like shocked, but I'm also like happy that we didn't play them because in reality, the odds would have been different obviously if we played the Ravens, but it would have been we would have been the underdogs. I feel like if we played the Ravens, just because they beat us earlier in the season, but we're not. So I feel slightly better, um, and that's why I think I'm gonna just let it go. I'm gonna just see. I'm gonna just watch it. I'm not gonna bet, and I think I'm obviously pulling for the Niners because Jimmy's not at quarterback.
Yeah.
We got more weapons. Um,
Mm.
we we have two of the same weapons, but we added two more weapons. One is made the MVP finalist along with our
Mm.
quarterback, and that guy didn't play in the Super Bowl. So I think I think they have so much trouble against dudes like that and Debo.
So, so
So I
Drew, do
think
you want to give a score? Do you want to give a
yeah,
possible score
yeah, I'm gonna give the score right now. I think it's gonna be 33-21
in the favor of anybody?
Niners.
Okay, truly, Trey says, "Peace out, gentlemen." Chiefs 37-4. This I have to say, guys, ladies and gentlemen, beloved listeners, and I do say beloved because I really do feel that love for you all. This has been one of the funnest lives. Being clowned by so many of you all and proven to be ridiculous, men making the points for me better than myself. But truly, Trey goes off on a funny one, and this is hilarious. And Taylor Swift and her fellow Swifties rush onto the field to present the Super Bowl MVP to Kelsey. That is quite true, Drew, that can actually happen. All of these crazy preteens, teens, young ladies, and just, I guess maybe I should just be honest, right? Fellow listeners of good music, they would probably rush out there to the field with Taylor Swift walking right in the middle of everybody, running to
That's
her man, hugging, and then doing that crazy thing where a guy holds her by
first
the
off.
under the armpits and starts spinning her around all crazy. I could see that happening.
Well, first off, they're gonna smash either way that night. Like they're in love. And
What if they
second off,
lose?
and second off, if they were to
Mhm.
win, the commissioner gives gives the trophy, and he's the one that's actually presenting that trophy to the MVP, the coach, and then Taylor Swift would actually be down on the grass looking up to everyone, not being the center of attention. Now I'm
Bro,
playing. Now I'm playing.
if
No, she would.
Kelsey,
No, she would actually be the center of attention. I'm pretty sure. I wouldn't be surprised if they bring her up in the fucking stage, bro.
bro,
You
if
know?
Kelsey wins, what if he gets down on his knees and proposes?
Damn, son. Well, it's
Oh, hey,
that's
bro,
pretty
are we
insane.
Swifties? Are we Swifties?
Nah, because dude, I've been hearing shit like they're already planning on having babies. So it's like, you know, I
What? What are you talking about? Are you actually following like this love
bro,
affair? Like,
it's seeping through the NFL Network. I don't watch
really?
TMZ. I
That's
don't
so
watch
pathetic.
I don't watch TMZ. It's literally seeping. This information that I'm getting
Yeah.
is being told to me. It's told to me. I'm watching this shit by the same people who are telling me that, hey, this free agent signed with this team.
You
They're
know what?
literally it's
This
turning into that now. You
Oh
know.
man, you know what? I'm starting to believe Alex Jones now. Alex Jones has been stating that this is all orchestrated. And you know you already know all these rumors about how that 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 boxing is scripted and all of those things. I mean, obviously you've heard things, right? That the sport of boxing is scripted, right?
No, I mean it's impossible. I don't think nothing's scripted.
No, I okay. But here's the thing. I don't want to get into politics, but we do know that that Taylor Swift is represents a certain side of the political divide, right? And this political party has her as a spokesperson for the more youthful, modernized um, side of the
What are you
United
talking
States,
about?
right? Taylor Swift. Well, I'm
Okay.
talking about. Well, I'm just gonna go out and say the Democratic Party has garnered the services of Taylor Swift to represent them and their plans for having the youthful population vote, especially the feminine side, to vote for Democrats. It
Dude,
really
take
is
like
true. And and if this is the reason why a non football story is being promulgated so much because there's some political leanings to the story, and people do think that the sport of football is now scripted. And if it happens to be that one of the greatest things that happens in this year at the Super Bowl is that Kelsey proposes to to Taylor Swift, and of course that would take over the news for like who knows how long, and then all of a sudden it would distract from all the other crazy old things going on in the world, and then people would start voting due to this love affair instead of actually thinking about the future of our country. Then this might just be the angle. And if you guys listen to Alex Jones, he has some very interesting takes, and now you're making me think that that might be true. If the NFL Network is pushing this storyline that has nothing to do with the sport of football for the sake of it, then it just makes me think, what are they trying to get at? Why are they moving like this? This has no interest in the manly, masculine, and violent sport of football, according
look,
to the traditionalists.
look, man. You're pretty much saying that you know the
Vince
person,
Vargas.
right? You know the person, right? That I don't know what the yeah, I'm pretty sure you know the name of the person, the title. I'm trying to think of the title. Like
Give me the clue. Don't give me the name. Give me the
no,
clue.
he orchestrates like the whole choir. Like what's that guy's position? And then he moves his
The
hands like
conductor.
that. Yeah, the
Conductor.
conductor. So you're
Hmm.
telling me there's a conductor out there that's conducting all this BS that's not named God.
Uh, yeah. There's been people like that.
Mm,
Constantinople, Napoleon, Hitler,
no,
Mao. There's
I'm talking
men
about guys who
that
are
don't
alive
need
right
to,
now.
but I don't
Oh,
follow politics too much. But there are people like
I think
Elon
it's not
Musk.
fair.
I
I don't
think
think
there's
it's fair
people.
for someone to not watch politics and not know exactly, because then you wouldn't be able to connect the dots to the fullest.
Look, I think we just got a couple of Lobito's boxing breakdown. If I'm not mistaken, that's Mr. Gonzalo from the BDA show. Very astute, very knowledgeable
I'm at 2%.
commentator. Okay, that your phone's gonna die, buddy.
Yeah,
But if I'm not mistaken, if this is the real account of Lobito's boxing breakdowns, that is Mr.
well, that's dope.
Gonzalo. Yeah, he is an
I,
incredible
I,
analyst.
I think I've seen him
He's
be around before.
No, he's an incredible established commentator. Yeah, a boxing analyst, a great mind. Him, Mr. BDA, Recognize, and
On IG.
Jimmy De Marino are incredible. They're really like men that I look up to. Um, when it comes to their confidence in speaking their opinions, which are always logical and reasonable. So if that is Mr. Lobito's boxing breakdowns, then welcome on board to you, Mr. Gonzalo, to the Homie Ricky podcast, and good even fall to you. And of course, El Pachuco states, Lobitos Boxing Breakdowns. ¿Qué onda, Gonzalo? Saludos. So I hope that is that man right there. It would be actually a pleasure if Gonzalo, came to visit this small little venture, this rather new podcast that, Drew, did you know that we're 80 episodes in and two lives, each live around 3 or 4 hours long? Did you know that we've been as prolific in about 8 months now, doing so many lives? Did you know that we have that much content so far?
It's pretty good. I'm pretty sure you'll see the. Now we're talking about this like we haven't really changed anything up as far as how we talk. I was gonna say we've learned a lot, but nah, we it's pretty much how we've been talking. Like because we'll go over to each other's house, and we'll have remember those 3-hour conversations,
Hmm.
and that's when it hit me. I'm like, dude, we need to go put this shit like on live, just because we want to be able to categorize these conversations, because we're just all over the place sometimes, especially in
Yeah.
person. In person, we're just, oof,
Yeah, we're
we're like,
different. I
it's,
I
yeah.
haven't talked to to Rick. One time we had a dispute about boxing that was so serious that I don't think I talked to him or looked even in this direction for about a month.
Oh, damn. Are you serious?
I swear to God, I swear to
Damn,
God,
bro.
and then once like whatever worn off, we
What'd you
just
call
started talking.
him?
I don't think we called each other anything. I think I don't want to. I don't. I think this was probably it. The only thing I can think of is that he said something bad about Lomachenko.
Oh, damn. Dude, could that no wonder because like right when Rick says Loma, once Loma comes out of his mouth, you say, "Here we go." I'm like, what was going? I'm like, I don't know what. Like, I felt the tension every time every time either you or him bring up Loma. That's
Hmm.
hilarious, man. That's hilarious because I kind of seen it. I was like, damn. But I mean, it's never too serious. It's like it's really just we're just talking out of our pride, and talking out of the knowledge that we have. Sometimes we be saying the same shit, but
Hmm.
like our adjectives or adjectives, adverbs, I don't know. Fucking, it's sometimes it means a little differently to us, and in reality, we're saying the same shit,
Yeah. You know what, Drew? Just because homie Ricky just sent out the last missive there, where he reminds us that the missus wants to go and eat, so they're probably gonna get a bite, and he just
Okay.
wants us to text him when he wants us to end the live. I know that you said that you have about 2% on your device. I
Yeah.
believe 2% on an Apple comes out to be about 20 minutes. Whereby 2% and a Samsung, especially the older model that I have, the S9, 2% means 2 seconds. So, with that being said, I just want to remind you all that tomorrow is going to be an incredible night of boxing. Teofimo Lopez is going to be fighting Jermaine Ortiz. We're going to have
Jamaine.
Keith. Yeah, Jermaine. That's what I said, right? Jermaine with a
Ja.
J and an A. Yeah.
Oh
Oh,
yeah.
Jermaine. Jermaine. We're gonna have
Jamaine.
Teofimo Lopez. Oh, Jermaine. Okay. Keyshawn Davis, Jose Pedraza, intriguing fight right there. Alan Garcia and Charlie Shihei, who's gonna be fighting each other at the lightweight division. I would just ask before we end this live of Gonzalo, Wiz, El Pachuco, or anybody wants to give the comments, including you, Drew123, and homie Ricky, or anybody that's out there, can you please call the fight? Teofimo Lopez, Jermaine Ortiz, who wins? Keyshawn Davis, Jose Pedraza, who
He
wins?
said. He said he said when the fight ends.
What do you mean?
He said we'll go live when the fight ends for the after the TO fight.
Oh, okay, yeah, yeah, yeah. But I'm asking you guys, who do you guys have for the win? Lopez, Ortiz, Keyshawn Davis versus Jose Pedraza, Ellen Garcia versus Charlie Shihei. Who do you guys
All
have
right.
for the win?
So I'm just real quick picks. It's gonna be it's going to be just last minute, right? Because I know I
Hmm.
said Teofimo. I'm gonna
Yep.
go with the last minute Jermaine Ortiz. I'm gonna
Okay.
go with the last minute win right there,
Okay.
decision. Like this is
Hmm.
as if I'm betting right now, and you're the bank, you know, Jermaine, and then boom, I got Keyshawn for the dub.
Okay.
I think he yeah, they're all unanimous, and then obviously
Garcia,
Abdullah,
Garcia
Charlie
versus
Sheehy,
Ishii.
yeah, he's gonna get that. Javier
Mm.
Martinez, yeah, he's good. We seen him fight last time. Alan Garcia, he's a
Hmm.
beast. I like him. He's an aggressive dude. Uh, Antonio Cepeda or Barrera, and that's all I see on BoxRec. So those are my last minute picks right there. So Jermaine Ortiz and Keyshawn Davis.
Okay. Yep. Those are good bets. I would never bet against Lopez. I understand Lopez is just a very predictable fighter.
Me
Depends
neither,
on
but
who comes
me
in.
neither. Me neither, but I have no money on him.
Yeah, you won't win no money because the odds are in favor of him.
Not even risking any either. Nah,
Okay, and the last thing I wanted to address, it would be
nah.
remiss on my part to not bring it up, but if you guys look closely at the screen, the icon that your interlocutor, Warp to Speed, has before him is Miss Katie Taylor. Now, you don't get to see them, but Miss Katie Taylor is uh, flanked by Amanda Serrano on her right, and Miss Clarissa Shields on her left. Unfortunately, of course, the icon and the shape that it is, it's only circular, so it cuts those legendary fighters off. But the reason I chose them as my icon for the night is because tonight, ladies and gentlemen, is National Girls and Women in Sports Day. Today, the 7th of February of every year, in fact, but today of 2024, the year of our Lord, the nation of the United States has recognized this day to be a day to commemorate the participation of these lovely women in all the sports that we view for entertainment purposes and for the sake of competition. We are boxing fans, and we do not discriminate based off sex, nationality, language, color, or any cultural practices. And as a result of that lack of discrimination, we do acknowledge these incredible women that take place. And participate in the sport of boxing in particular. Miss Katie Taylor, my favorite fighter. Miss Amanda Serrano, incredible fighter. Miss Clarissa Shields, one of the most incredible, accomplished women in the sport of boxing. Likely nobody will beat those records of all those three women combined. But I must also say something in particular for my own daughter, who's played baseball as a young child, and now tennis as a young adult. And my nieces that also play sports. My The women in my life in general, because of how great they are, they're incredible. And if you, ladies and gentlemen, have daughters, sisters, mothers that are competitive, they put themselves on the line for judgment of others, and if you appreciate that, go give them a hug. Do the right thing. Give them a hug. Give them a high five. Tell them they're badasses, and be happy that these people, these women, are parts of our life. So, Drew, I wanted to thank you once again, right? For enjoying a little bit of time with us, with our beloved listeners, because that's really why I do it, at least to enjoy and pass the time with men and women that have sharper minds and better formulated opinions than I do. So with that said, I thank you, Drew, for entertaining me. Schlosker the Destroyer, El Pachuco, Wiz, Mr. Vince Vargas, Mr. Gonzalo, Truly Trey, Boxing Magic Mex side. I know that somewhere there, Mexican Boxing number one is there listening in. Me and you, man, we were having fun tonight. I know you won't admit it, but you were having fun tonight. And of course, Boxing with Frank Bay and Mr. Wiz. Everybody that joined us for tonight's live, I appreciate that. It was one of the funnest lives, being trolled and ridiculed by your guys' intelligence. But hey, we're not perfect. And the homie Ricky, of course, to you, sir. Without your channel, we wouldn't be able to gather together and enjoy the time with intelligent, incredible fans like the ones that we have. Mr. Vince Vargas ends it no better way than the way it should be, with the boxing glove and recognition of why we are gathered here. Ladies and gentlemen, it's been a pleasure. I bid you adieu, and until next time.